missile caches.
Remember, the capabilities of our military is not tied to Trump or this guy or Hegseth or any of them. Bringing this up right here is all propaganda. And in the text messages that were released, they literally went through the messaging strategy that he's trying to use right here. You know, blame Biden, talk about Biden. The issue is talking about this information on an unsecured line, essentially, on this platform. They say it's encrypted. Yeah, so is freaking Snapchat. Like, everything's encrypted, bro. Everything's encrypted. So is Cash App, and I don't know if Snapchat really is. I'm not really sure. But encrypted doesn't mean safe or secured. And this can put people's lives in danger if you handle crucial intel like this. And if they're talking on Signal, by the way, a private platform, with this situation, they're definitely talking on Signal for many different situations. So when it comes to actually discussing this topic, we have to also recognize that they are avoiding the freedom of information. They're avoiding being tracked by our government, so they can lie, they can do backroom deals, and they can make it disappear on Signal. If we ever look into government records, it's not going to be on there. So this is bad for, you know, the most transparent administration in American history. The most transparent.
And actually one of the leaders of the Houthi organization, we've since taken out several cents. And, you know, that's what they don't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about the success here. They don't want to.
Someone said, what do you prefer they use? Microsoft Teams? Okay, I want you to just think for a second. The technology civilians use for communications is not the same technology they use in our intelligence community, in our Defense Department. Do you think they use the same exact technology we use? Do you really think so? Do you know what a SCIF is? A SCIF is a sensitive, compartmented information facility. I did look up what the C was. I forgot. But yeah, a SCIF is essentially where you go to make a phone call about sensitive information like this. And one of the people in the group chat, they were in Russia. That person being in Russia on this platform means Russia saw everything that was on their phone. Russia saw everything that was on their phone because they were in Russia as they were discussing these crucial marks of intel.
Want to talk about the hostages getting released. They don't want to talk about the Black Sea ceasefire that we just put in place today as the president ends the largest land war in Europe, or the border, or the fact that Panama just kicked China out of the canal, and success after success after success. So they want to focus on this. It's embarrassing, yes. We're going to get to the bottom of it. I just talked to Elon on the way here. We've got the best technical minds looking at how this happened. But I can tell you,
I talked to Elon because I added the guy to the group chat, and I'm stupid, and I'm putting our troops in danger, and a million other things. I talked to Elon. I talked to Elon, bro. That's awesome. I talked to Elon, dude. I talked to Elon. Of course. Elon builds rockets with his pinky toe. Elon builds autonomous vehicles and satellite, internet, and brain chips. Elon does it all by himself. He's a genius, bro. Let's give the entire government to Elon, guys.
I can tell you for 100%, I don't know this guy. I know him by his horrible reputation, and he really is the bottom scum of journalists. And I know him in the sense that he hates the president, but I don't text him. He wasn't on my phone.
How dare he
So you don't
have
know
opinions?
what staffer is responsible for this right now?
Well, look, a staffer wasn't responsible, and look, I take full responsibility. I built the group to my job.
I built the group. I built the group. Very precisely. You know, when you're in these positions, you know that thing you know about people in intel or high up in the military. They're very sharp. They're very sharp when they do things. When you have a bunch of clowns in charge, you put those very sharp individuals at risk.
Is to make sure everything's coordinated.
But how did the
execute?
number? I mean, I don't mean to be pedantic here, but how did the number?
Have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name, and then you have somebody else's number there?
I never make those mistakes.
Right? You got somebody else.
Are you a 12-year-old boy making your first Xbox Live party, bro? Are you talking like you weren't planning on bombing a? Like, it sounds like he's talking to his girlfriend about being on a Snapchat group in 8th grade with another girl that she doesn't like. Like, yeah, I mean, we made the Snapchat group. I didn't realize who was in it. You know, I didn't know Rosie was in there. I know you don't like her. Girl name. What is this excuse? What's going on in this country, bro? I mean, you know how it is. Sometimes you just like leak national security by accident, bro.
Else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loser in the group. It looked like someone
This
else.
loser.
Now, whether he did it
This
deliberately
loser.
or
Call him a loser.
it happened in some other
That's so
technical
cool.
mean is something we're trying to figure out.
So you're
He
a
hacked
staffer.
in. Other technical means? Okay, he hacked it. He hacked in. That's so cool. That is so awesome. This entire thing is so cool.
Did not put his contact
not.
information.
No,
but
no,
how
no,
did it
no.
end
Of
up
course
in
not.
your
Well, that's
phone?
what we're trying to figure out.
Okay, but that's a big problem.
is what-
If there are
that's what
numbers.
Bro, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't know how it got on my phone. This is insane. If you're an adult person and you see this guy speaking and you don't understand he's full of shit, I don't know what to do with you.
We've got the best technical minds, right?
That's
And that's
disturbing.
where, I mean,
We've got the best technical minds, like when your grandma asks you to turn TV on and off. Come turn the TV on. Wow, you're such a great technical mind. I don't know how to use the Facebooks. How do you use the Facebooks, honey? Oh, you made a group chat with me on the Facebooks. Thank you, honey, on the Facebooks. Wow, I was on the MySpaces, now I'm on the Facebooks. We have to call some technical experts to learn how to log out of my account.
I'm sure everybody out there has had a contact where it was said one person and then a different phone number.
But you've never talked to him before, so how's the number on your
Bro, you're not everybody. First off, you should not be talking on that platform at all because it can be spied on with zero effort. And it was spied on. Someone was in Russia when they did this. Second off, if you're going to be using an illegal means to talk to people about such crucial information, at least make sure you add the right people to the damn group chat, bro. I don't make that mistake when I'm like playing Xbox at 4 a.m. Like, hey, sorry, I added the high school principal. I added one of our it's so stupid, dude.
phone? I mean, I'm not an expert in any of this, but it's just curious. How's the number on your phone?
Well, if you have somebody else's contact and then somehow it gets
someone
sucked
sent
in,
you that
it gets sucked
contact.
in.
Was there someone else supposed to be on the chat?
That's the same argument men use when they're caught cheating. It's like, I don't talk to her. We just had similar, we had mutual friends on Facebook, and you just get sucked in. I just got sucked in. I never spoke with,
That wasn't on the chat that you thought was
So
on
the
the chat?
person that I thought was on there was never on there. It was this.
Thank you for the 5 gifted memberships, Amber. Hello, Amber. Hi. Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Was that what person?
Well, I'm not. Look,
Okay.
Laura, I take responsibility. I built the group.
Okay.
So but look, that's the part that we have to figure out, and that's the part
did
that
this?
Embarrassing, yes, but Pete and I are veterans. We know these operations.
If you're veterans, and Pete has spoken about this before, what top secret means or classified means. If you're veterans, you'd probably be, that's insulting to vets, to be honest. Acting like all vets are like you scumbags is insane. Because a real person who cares about America is not going to talk about such crucial intel on a private server. But also, it's such a cop-out. We were vets. Yeah, there's a lot of vets that are shitty people. And most vets are great people. But you guys are the shitty ones.
He has been an excellent Secretary of Defense, and this was an operation that, I mean, it amazes me. I guess the Democrats were fine to leave all the sea lanes shut down. We're fine to have destroyers fired on dozens of times by this
Why are we
terrorist
talking
group,
about
and fine to
Democrats,
have
bro?
Iran keep
Why are we talking about Democrats? You added someone to a friggin' group chat and compromised the safety of our troops. And you probably compromised us in the future for our national security purposes. And you're talking about Democrats?
keep supplying them missiles. That was okay. The president takes decisive action. And now we're seeing some real success in taking down their air defenses, opening the sea lanes, taking out their leadership. We don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about this.
Now, the Atlantic
We don't want to talk about that. Oh my God, it's so pathetic. Trying to skirt all responsibility.
Told us in part that attempts to disparage and discredit us and our reporting follow an obvious playbook by elected officials and others in power who are hostile to journalists and First Amendment rights of all Americans. They're saying, don't blame the messenger. Your response to them?
Lied about Russia, lied about Gold Star families, lied about even as last, year in terms.
See, we know that this current story is 100% true, and they're lying about it. So the Gold Star families thing about Trump calling soldiers suckers and losers or whatever, and the other stories about Russia, which it's true, Russia helped to make sure Trump won. Even if they did not work directly with Trump, they still wanted Trump to win. All this stuff is true. And this current story, if you're a Trump supporter, this current story being so blatantly true, and if they're going to be lying so out in the open about it, you know, if they're going to lie this openly, you have to realize those other stories they told you about, saying the Russia stuff is a hoax and the suckers and losers thing is a hoax, Trump never said that. They're lying about those too. There's a reason they're grouping them in too. They're grouping them into the same bubble of information because they want you to think this is a lie. Just like they wanted you to think the other stuff is a lie. But just like the other things, this is true as well. This did happen. And now they're betting on your brain being so broken and conspiracy ridden that you're going to be unable to think independently for yourself. They think if they say Russia, Russia, Russia gate, Putin, Hillary Clinton, emo, if they say these buzzwords, they can shut off every critical thinking ability your brain has. Prove them wrong, please.
Paying for the family of a Gold Star family that he absolutely did. I mean, lie after lie after lie.
Have they ever apologized for any of that?
No. I mean, this is, do we care about the mainstream media? Do we care about the Atlantic? What I care about is staying focused on mission, accomplishing the president's agenda, getting these things done, cleaning up the Biden messes from Afghanistan to Ukraine to the Houthis to the border to China all over South America. To the Arctic, where we're completely exposed, to NATO that's not paying up, and the president has had success after success. Well, he's got a fantastic national security team.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just stunning how many people on the team have his 100% trust.
Someone said Biden stared at his watch while the caskets were lowered down. That's, again, you believe whatever propaganda they tell you. You believe whatever propaganda they tell you. You're making yourself mad about someone glancing down at their wrist one time. It's so stupid. He's staring at it. Like, how hyperbolic and emotional do you got to be?
And there have been enormous successes early on in this administration, but you all are rattling the old cages of the establishment, defense, and national security embedded people who are still...
Yes, you are rattling our national security people, the embedded people who are protecting our country. You are rattling them because you are putting our country at risk, of course, yes. Look at him. He knows he's a fraud. He knows he's a damn fraud. The people working in these jobs are great people, by the way. I don't know why they want to villainize these individuals who are, you know, mostly vets, you know, intelligence officers that move into the CIA, NSA, whatever organizations you want to talk about. Our national security is a big deal. And this guy's compromising it. He's compromising it. And he's talking about, you know, they are the deep state. Bro, maybe they care about the country. Maybe you're messing up.
Working government, a lot of great people. But the concern is that somebody got involved here who didn't want the president to be successful. And a lot of us are very concerned.
Someone said, vets are scammers. Let's go, Brandon. Typical Trump supporter. Shaking my head.
About that. That someone is in this orbit who doesn't want this president of the United States to be a raging success and turn our foreign policy into an America First approach.
We made a mistake. We're moving forward, and we're going to continue to knock it out of the park for this president. Look at what he's gotten done in under 2 months. And I didn't even get going on the economy, on trade, or all of those other pieces.
And April 2nd's coming.
The DNI, Liberation Day.
The DNI was very adamant today and very
clear
clear
back to your slogans.
that there was no classified information in this text chat. And the Democrats, of course, are predictably, they're going to jump on this.
Vets disagree with you. You know, I think Trump got 60% of the military vote. But in general, different vets from different eras have different ideologies, and many different vets are, I mean, it's very ideologically diverse in general. But also, I guarantee you, if you pull vets on this situation, They might not blame Trump, but they're not happy. No matter if they're Republicans or Democrats, they're not happy about this. If you even pretended to care about Hillary's emails, this is 50 million times worse than Hillary's emails ever were. 50 million times worse. Like it's not even, you can't even put a number on how much worse this is when it comes to endangering our troops.
But should Goldberg just release the other information that he has? Because he's standing on this, well, I'm not going to release this information because I have my standards and journalistic standards. Okay, but it's not classified information, so does it matter? Would you care if the rest of this information came out? Okay,
so let's say he releases the information and it is classified. Would a legal argument hold up in court that you released I mean, he doesn't want to endanger people. That's the thing. This journalist has taken more care into protecting our national security and protecting our troops than all of these assholes did. That's the whole thing about this. That journalist showed more principle and standing and stature than any of these assholes showed. Protecting whatever names are in there. And we'll find out eventually. But you can't trust them with anything they say because they're so openly lying about this.
Look, I mean, I would prefer, certainly as the president was saying today, if we could all sit in a steel-lined lead room and have all of these conversations. I certainly want our...
And then they say, I wish we could all be in the same room for all these conversations. You did not need to have a group chat with freaking Treasury, you did not need to have a friendly chat with the bros before you bomb the Houthis, okay? And if it's really that big of a deal where you need to be bombing another country, then yeah, be in a freaking skiff. Be somewhere secure. That's how you do it. It's not like, and I know he's appealing to the common person where it's like, things get busy. I wish we could all talk in the same room, but sometimes it doesn't work out like that. Sometimes the kids have soccer practice. No, bro, you're the U.S. National Security Advisor. You have a very basic level of oh my god, dude, it's so annoying. Because I know their goal here is to lie to people. Because he is convinced they can lie about anything. They can lie their way out of anything. The old Trump quote, you could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. That's really what they bank on.
Our deliberations to stay confidential. This was an encrypted app that the CIA had on sitting there as John Ratcliffe was confirmed and walked into the building from the prior administration. It's on other agency apps. And so...
Okay, so for the agency applications they use, when they use this Signal platform to discuss different topics, you are able to do that for day-to-day stuff. They use Google and, maybe Microsoft, I forget which one, maybe Outlook or Google, whatever. They use Teams or whatever for conference calls. They use it for emails and messaging throughout the organization. But if it's such important intelligence like this, if it's classified, if it's top secret, if it's a military operation that's about to happen, you are not supposed to do it on these platforms for a reason. And he's lying again, bro. Lying again. Yeah, you can use it for some things. An entry-level employee at the NSA knows this. Someone who worked at the NSA for 5 seconds knows this. Someone who's been in the military for any reasonable amount of time knows this. First day on the job, you know this. It's very simple.
No, of course I don't want it all out there because these were conversations back and forth that you should be able to have confidentially. But what you also saw was a healthy policy debate and how we were going to achieve this for the president.
Healthy policy debate, aka, bro, I freaking hate Europe, bro. I freaking hate Europe. Healthy policy debate. Send emojis. He sent emojis after the
timeline. And I think, again, I am fortunate to work for this president. I am fortunate to help him execute this vision and incredibly fortunate to have this team around him.
But there's no classified information in this exchange.
No classified information.
But you'd prefer it not to be out.
Of course. Do you want everything?
Yeah. No, well,
right.
Okay, I guess we'll see if it was classified information. I guess we'll see what was classified, what's not classified. But again, we're not going to know anything until, you might not know for a long time, because if they're going to be using Signal like this, then we don't know what else they're using it for. So the chats we don't see might be more interesting than the ones we did see. So maybe it's like, oh, there's no classified information here. You know, it'd be baller. Unclassify all the information. Look at it, be like, hey, this is not classified. And we'll say, hey, this was classified when you did it. And they'll say, nuh-uh. And then the Trumpers will celebrate because they won the debate. They'll say you're wrong. How about Jasmine Crockett? What is Jasmine Crockett talking about? What is Jasmine Crockett talking about? What is she talking about? I heard she was talking about Hot Wheels today. Let's see. Where is it? Jesus. Okay, so Jasmine Crockett. Whoa. Jasmine Crockett made everyone really mad today by calling Governor Abbott something. Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'll take a phone call. I'll take a call in a minute. I'll take a call in 1 second if you want to call into the show. We don't have very many people tonight, but drop a like on the stream. I'll talk to one person at least. I am very tired today. I might just go for an hour and get off and go to bed. Get back at it tomorrow. Doing a lot of stuff today, man. Doing a lot of stuff. Yeah, so Jasmine Crockett made everyone really mad today.
Because we in these hot-ass Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot-ass mess, honey. So yes.
Okay, so Governor Abbott is in a wheelchair. He's in a wheelchair. And she calls him Governor Hot Wheels. Now, it's really funny seeing the response to this. And by the way, I don't condone that. I do not condone that. But hearing Republicans, oh my God, bro, rolling up to the White House to cheer on the president destroying the agency. Rolling up to the White House to cheer on the president destroying the agency that makes sure kids in wheelchairs have equal access to education is wild. With a picture of Governor Abbott. And then, where else did she comment on this? Was it from her official account? I feel like it might have been. Let me see. Oh, I was not thinking about the governor's condition. I was thinking about the planes, trains, and automobiles he used to transfer migrants into communities led by black mayors, deliberately stoking hate or stoking tension and fear among the most vulnerable. Literally, the next line I said was that he was a hot-ass mess, referencing his terrible policies. I respect this because she says, essentially, at no point did I mention or allude to his condition, so I'm even more appalled that the very people who unequivocally support Trump, a man known for racially insensitive nicknames and mocking those with disabilities, are now outraged. I have never seen a Democrat do the same gaslighting that Trump does and that Republicans do, where she does do something. She definitely did say that, like calling him Hot Wheels because he's in a wheelchair. She definitely did do that. But not owning up to it, but just like denying it completely. Saying, I never said that. I never meant to talk about his condition. I was making a point about something else. I respect it. Republicans do this all the time. And yeah, Trump has said this. He has said the most outrageous shit about the most vulnerable groups, including mocking people with disabilities. Aggressively, very aggressively. And Republicans did not care at all. They cheered it on. And I saw someone... Hot Wheels sounds pretty cool, to be honest. I saw someone make a comment on Twitter where it's like, bro, why are so many neo-Nazis complaining about ableism? Why are so many neo-Nazis that want trans people to be genocided? Why are they complaining about ableism? And the simple answer is that they're cry bullies. They don't actually care about any of this. They really don't care. They're cry bullies. They don't care. They can make fun of you. They can demean you. But the moment you say something back at all, then it's like, oh, your opinion's illegal. That's what they do over and over and over again. What's going on here? Why is this?
He's got his own.
What's going on? Okay.
Ben Shapiro himself felt that way initially with what he had tweeted out.
Hey, I appreciate you having.
Affectionately, I'm not trying to be incendiary. You called me a jackass. How many dudes do you call a jackass and then you go on this show? Could you tell me that? Could you answer that one first?
Hey, I appreciate you having me on, and the invitation, as you know, is open the other way around.
Hi, Strange. Thank you so much for $2. Thank you. Just wanted to say hi to you as well.
It's shockingly, the answer is probably a lot, actually, in terms of the number of people who I've called a jackass who I've then actually become friendly with, or who I've had on the show, or vice versa. So, you're in this business, you know it.
I got you. I'm not overly offended. Trust me on that. All right. But thank you for coming on the show. So let's get right into it. As you know, I spoke out against your petition to get President Trump to pardon former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. For those that don't know, Chauvin was sentenced to 22 years in prison after being convicted of unintentional second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter of George Floyd. I wondered if you would feel that way if the officer was black and the victim was Jewish. That was what I said. And your response was to call me a race baiter. Why is that, Ben Shapiro?
That's hilarious because Ben Shapiro is race baiting by definition. And they want to try to rationalize this now and change people's perceptions of something they already believed when they saw it happen. So they see what happened with George Floyd, and everyone has the same opinion. This is not right. George Floyd was murdered. And now, years later, Ben Shapiro wants to revisit it and use the current anti-woke movement to try and get people to think, oh, yeah, well, actually, Derek Chauvin, he's not that bad. Since we're so far away from the actual reality, now Ben Shapiro wants to distort what really happened, take advantage of the time that has passed. And Ben Shapiro is race baiting. So him telling Stephen A. he's race baiting is kind of wild.
Well, to me, the entire case against Derek Chauvin was rooted in a sort of public racial essentialism that I thought was unnecessary to analyze the case. If I'm going to look at this case and just look at the facts of the case, the race of the person on the ground and the race of the officer are irrelevant, and we should treat it exactly the same, whether both people were black, both people are white, one person was Jewish, one person was not Jewish. The identity of the person on the ground, I think, should not be the deciding factor in whether or not Derek Chauvin was convicted of second-degree murder. It should be the situation, the facts of the case, the autopsy report, and all of the rest. And so the thing that I actually objected to was the suggestion that my opinion would have changed rooted in the, say, racial or religious identity of the person who died, as opposed to the racial or religious identity of the person who was the police officer. I just don't think that.
Well, Stephen A. Smith said that if the person was Jewish that was killed, Ben Shapiro would not be saying it's okay what happened. Or what happened is okay. And that is completely true, because Ben Shapiro right now is taking all of the actual facts we know about the case, ignoring all the facts, and making up his own rationalization for what happened, ignoring the medical examinations, ignoring everything about the actual, like, this was litigated in a courtroom, okay? It was in a courtroom, and it got decided there where it should be. But Ben Shapiro is trying to bypass that process and instead use mob rule and get people mad about this, and he's trying to get racial tensions to be higher. That's the entire goal here. And it's kind of disgusting, to be honest. But yeah, if it was a Jewish person who was killed, 100% Ben Shapiro would not be doing this.
That's how we ought to decide criminal justice cases in general.
In fairness to you, I can understand that in general. Damn it, in most instances, I can agree with that. But those are cases that we hear about. I'm talking about the visual impact. So let's stay right there, Ben. I am a black man, and I see this black man on the ground, face down, handcuffs behind him. Face is imprinted into the pavement. The knee of the police officer is on the back of his neck. He's literally saying he can't breathe, to one point crying for his mama. And it happens for over 9 minutes. I understand from a technical perspective, from a specific analytical perspective, forensic evidence, et cetera, fentanyl in the system, et cetera. I got all of that.
The actual examination did not give fentanyl as a cause for death at all. Looking at the drug tolerance, it was not the reason George Floyd died at all, and that's why this was litigated in a courtroom. And like, this is the issue with Stephen A. Smith talking about this. He's like, I understand the technical stuff. I understand all the technical stuff. No, you don't understand the technical stuff, because the technical stuff is on the side of Derek Chauvin being in prison for murder. All the information we have, the technical information, is agreeing with your position, but you're giving Ben Shapiro some of an... Look at him trying to make that dumbass mean mug. Holy crap. Why do these right-wing commentators need to have the dumbest, stern looks on their faces? Like, they need to pretend to act freaking, like, masculine. Like, what kind of angle is this, bro? Like, that's not even comfortable with my neck. I feel like I'm at a, like... That hurts my posture.
My point is, and my question to you at that time was, seeing that, how could you have another opinion? How could it be based on the preponderance of evidence that you threw into the fray in order to ask for this man to be pardoned? I'm just going by, like, there are certain things that you just see, and 1 + 1 = 2.
So, I mean,
Remember when Stephen A. Smith got Max Kellerman fired? Well, yeah, multiple guests told Stephen A. Smith to his... So I think Nick Wright is kind of taking that place, and hopefully that show gets more popular with him. And First Things First, I think it's called.
Stephen, actually, if you go back to my tweets at the time, May 30th and June 1st, if you look at my tweets, I'm saying the same kind of things you're saying right now. I'm saying the same kind of things at that time that everybody else is saying, seeing the tape, because there's no way to look at the tape.
I saw that.
And not be sort of shocked by what you're seeing on the tape, obviously. And then I think that the mark of a reasonable person is to change your opinion as the evidence changes. A lot of evidence emerged between the time that the tape was released, that horrible 9-minute tape, and the time the conviction actually happened. I mean, there's a full trial, there were autopsy reports, there was witness evidence. There were other people whose testimony was taken. There were multiple medical specialists who were called. And so in looking at all of that, that's the way we're supposed to adjudicate whether or not a person deserves to spend 22 years in prison.
What evidence?
Not based simply on our immediate gut response to the tape. And again, I had the same gut response to the tape that you did, and I think that everybody did. I think actually that tends to be the gut response of people when we see a lot of police activity, actually. It turns out that the police do a lot of things that look really rough on tape and really difficult on tape, and this was one of those things.
Okay, make your point, bro.
By the Minneapolis Police Department, right? Putting it's a submission technician that George Floyd was saying, I can't breathe, before he was even taken out of the car. He says, I can't breathe on the longer tape 6 times before he's even taken out of the car. I mean, it's a very long interaction with the police officers before you get to that 9-minute tape, the part that we all saw. And there's a part of the story that you can't see on the tape, which is the reverse angle. You can't see that there's a big crowd that's shouting at Chauvin. Chauvin is responding to that crowd. One of the preliminaries to getting up off of Floyd that way is to call what's called a code 4, which is where it's an all clear, where you feel that the crowd is not a threat to you. In fact, even the EMTs who showed up to provide care for Floyd didn't call a code 4 when they arrived on scene because they thought that the crowd was too threatening. So once you take into account all of the facts, if your opinion doesn't change and the fact pattern is different from what you...
Again, they litigated this in the courtroom. All the points Ben Shapiro was talking about, the defense brought up for Chauvin. The defense brought up all these points already, and they were shot down. And we can go through the different points, and I have to go look up the actual medical examination, but it's so annoying.
Originally thought it was, then you're not doing your job as a commentator. So I can have the same gut response that you have when I first see that tape. The question is what you do when more of those facts emerge, when you do see more of that evidence emerge, when you do read the testimony and see the autopsies.
See, but I believe, and this is just my belief, because in fairness to you, you're absolutely right. You did put out that tweet initially, and your position was it was shared by the Hannitys of the world, the Mark Levins of the world.
And like, so when we talk about George Floyd's death, okay, him saying I can't breathe over and over again says nothing about what Chauvin did, about how George Floyd died. George Floyd being on fentanyl did not change how George Floyd died. It did not. The stress, the injury on George Floyd's body, the medical examiner explained why they came to their conclusion for it being a homicide. That means the death being caused by another person, that being Chauvin, or Chauvin, whatever his name is. So like all these points are meant to be emotional, to make you think emotionally about this topic.
And various others, obviously with a lot of people on the left as well, before the preponderance of evidence that you're alluding to came into play. I get that. So in fairness to you, I have to say that. But sometimes...
So and the big point as well, and I'm going through my notes again, because unlike conservative commentators, I don't spend all my time focusing on causing race wars. But the 9 minutes and 29 seconds of him kneeling on Floyd's neck, you know, that included how much time did he stay kneeling on Floyd's neck after he was unconscious? How much time after Floyd was unconscious was he on his neck? That's what I really am interested in too. So you have to understand as well, don't allow Ben Shapiro to race bait you into being okay with the murder of someone. So George Floyd was unconscious. Out of those 9 minutes, he was unconscious for half of that time. For over 4 minutes and 40 seconds. He kept his knee pressed on an unconscious person, a lifeless person. That's what made it so grueling and so terrible. It wasn't just, restraining someone for a little bit. Floyd became unresponsive, and the knee remained on him for another 4.5 minutes after he was unconscious, and then unresponsive. So after Floyd was actually dead, and actually fully unresponsive, so unconscious first and then dead, he still stayed on him. So think about that. A dead, lifeless body. Chauvin stayed on Floyd's dead body with his knee pressed on him, essentially.
I'm going to say this to you because you're a pretty brilliant dude. Nobody can deny it with what you've accomplished with the...
Here you go, Stephen A. Smith giving him props for lying about this. Awesome. I love it. I love it when Stephen A. Smith is a disservice to the black community in a lot of these things. I'm not going to lie.
Daily Wire, what you've been able to do in your career. I'm just reading something. You were a syndicated columnist at the age of 17, for crying out loud. This is who you are. This is who I'm talking to here. Is it possible that sometimes we could be...
Bro, get on your knees already. Like, God... What are you doing?
Be so brilliant that our
Bro, get on your knees.
Intellect gets in the way of common sense. For example, what I mean by that is this, Ben. It was a knee on his neck for 9.5 minutes. If that didn't happen, is he still alive? I'm not talking about today because anything could have happened to you that day. I'm just saying the fact that Derek Chauvin's knee was on his neck, that to me should speak for itself.
Yeah, that's true, Epoch. Derek Chauvin staying on his neck after he died, and we're talking about this situation, and just a second ago people were complaining about Jasmine Crockett being ableist, saying a mean joke, and now they're like, yeah, I mean, he deserved to die, bro. Totally cool, bro. Now you see the tone shift. It's awesome.
Hello.
Hi, this is the Jolah Talks Politics show. What's up?
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Living the dream.
Hell yeah. Same shit, different pile.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Well, what do you want to chat about?
No, I'm just watching the stream and thought that I could maybe give you some insight.
Insight? Insight onto what?
Well, sorry, I clicked the thing. Some insight into the conversation that's to be had. I'm an Army veteran and I've worked. I'm multiple degrees in the medical field, and I think that some of what he's saying, maybe I could try to bring some clarity to. I think that this case is well, it redefined a lot of things for our country, and I'm just hoping that maybe I can help. Like, I don't know. I think that maybe we won't necessarily agree on everything, but I don't know. It could be a pretty passionate conversation, but I think, with absolute absolution, the drugs played a massive impact on the life of, on his life. He, and I think that words are important, without a doubt. And, I think the actions that happened, and I think that what happened to George Floyd is absolutely tragic, but I've been in the ER, I've been in the OR, and if he would have come in without what happened to him, without police interaction, it's the critical amount, it was fatal, what he had in his system.
You said it was fatal?
It was a fatal amount. So the thing is that, like, the amount of drugs in his system was fatal. So if he would have come into our ER, right, and, there was no interaction with the police and his friends brought him in, it would have been fatal. we could have tried to give him the Narcan. We could have tried to give him everything or whatever. It was fatal. That's why he was lethargic. That's why.
But you know the difference here,
paranoid.
right? You know the difference with like a fatal dosage for someone who never did a drug before versus someone who has a large tolerance.
I also know how organs work. I've studied that
Okay, you
for
said you
both
work in
of
the
my
medical field there.
degrees.
Let's talk about drug tolerance, right?
You're telling me I don't understand how drug tolerance works.
Explain it then, because
And
that's the big thing in the
okay.
case with the medical examiner, right? So explain that.
Okay, so the more drugs you take over a long period of time, you build up a drug tolerance. The same thing is like there's a difference between being addicted to something and being dependent on something, all right? That when you're addicted to something, you want more and more and more and more and more as the tolerance builds. When you're dependent on something, you don't necessarily need more and more and more and more and more. You just can take what you need and not crave more. Like those two things are different also, okay? With the addict personality, with the addict side, which is what he was, he wanted more and more and more and more, and he did build up a massive tolerance. But what he had in his system, his body would never be able. So he basically took what was in his car to hide it. Okay, he stored it like a pocket. All right, his body couldn't metabolize it. He wasn't taking what he took to get high. He shoved everything in because he was scared because the cops showed up. By the time that metabolized,
Hello? You cut out.
oh, I said, I don't know what the last thing you heard was.
You said at the time it metabolized, but also they went through these arguments. The medical examiners went through these arguments, went through the classic signs of like an overdose, for example. And you could look at his pupils. His pupils showed no signs of an overdose because his pupils were dilated. Also, the idea that he'd be freaking out and having panic attacks on a fatal dosage of fentanyl, he would be becoming sleepy. They usually die of overdose because their body stops working. So, I mean, that's why the medical examiner said the 100% reason he died was because of the improper force. And even someone that was not on drugs would have died from these methods, especially considering Chauvin stayed on his neck 4.5 minutes after he became unresponsive.
Okay, do you remember when he was walking to the car and he started to panic? He got to the car, he didn't want to get in the car, he began to panic. That's why they put him on the ground. And he was freaking out about wanting to get in the car. You remember that video? Then when he got on the ground and he urinated, these are all telltale signs of an overdose.
No, it's not. I mean, you could have a panic attack, and the medical examiners
I
that
don't
actually
think
were
you
hands-on with this case. I do understand. I'm saying more about overdose than you are. You were running away from even talking about like a tolerance. But like when we talk about
I
like
didn't run away. I explained
when
it to
the
you in
cops
great
come up to the
detail.
car, well, you did not even say like the key point where the drugs have less of an impact on the system. It's not just wanting more and more and more. It's the drugs have less of an impact. That's why the body wants more, because your body builds up an immune response essentially to the drugs, and the drugs become less potent in the system, or like what actually affects you. So like if an alcoholic drinks alcohol, they need to drink a lot more to get drunk. They build up a tolerance to alcohol. Their body will not even feel it at a certain level. It just becomes their baseline. Their baseline changes. And the expert testimony, multiple experts testified, talking about, this restraint was not taught by the department. It was not taught. It was not authorized on the neck. And also, again, he was unconscious for 4.5 minutes under a knee while handcuffed, and was dead before the paramedics even had a chance to arrive. And there was no signs. There were no telltale signs of an overdose at all. There were no signs of that for the cause of death. And that's the thing we really need to look at.
Right. And did you take a look at the lab reports?
Which lab reports?
Oh, the lab report, his blood work.
What about the blood work?
The blood work. Okay, so this is what's key about it, okay? every single body, if you know anything about the medical field, every single body is different. It's just like you were talking about tolerance, and I was trying to explain the difference between, dependence and like when you were asking me that question, and I said there's even a difference between a person who's dependent on medication, a person who's addicted, and builds up that baseline like you were talking about. But when you shove everything in your car into your mouth to try to hide it, that is very different. And that's the example I was giving you because that's what happened, okay? That's different, okay? Now, the key point is when you look at the lab work and you look at where his fentanyl doses, like what his fentanyl levels were, how many drugs, he had several drugs in his system, but where his fentanyl levels were, those were fatal levels. It doesn't matter what you think your tolerance is.
I'm sorry, but you're
only...
saying things that are incorrect. The tolerance does matter. A fatal dosage is more for someone with a high tolerance. It is more. That's objectively true medically. I'm starting to question your credentials. No, that's 100% how it works.
Really?
Yes.
Both degrees. I'm glad you think so. Because
I don't know who gave you those degrees. If you think tolerance doesn't impact your chances to overdose, yes. The fatal dosage does change when you're on something a lot. The same with alcoholism. Alcohol poisoning, you can get at different levels, especially for an alcoholic. It's harder to reach that point. Yes, that's how it works.
I just want you to understand something about my credentials. When you do your lab work, right? When you do lab work, the amount of like drugs in your system, for example, goes based on your height, weight, BMI, everything like that. Your tolerance, okay, plays a factor, absolutely, okay? But when you get up to the point where it is literally a massive percentage of what your cardiac, your heart, your brain, like it is off the charts, your tolerance is irrelevant. And that's what his fentanyl doses was. It was off the charts. I'm going to look it up and tell you. Because I don't think you're understanding.
And every medical examiner, even from the lab reports, said that the primary cause of death was restraint and compression, and also the tactics were wrong.
Right? Both sides said that?
Yeah, the medical examiners that looked at the case, yes.
Because here's the thing. I'm going to look this up because I remember looking at these lab reports and I was like, man, if this gentleman came in, regardless, now I'm not saying that they should have stayed on him the way that they did. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying I agree with everything, but I also served in the military. So I also know that that is something that is done. They teach that, not necessarily on the neck like that, but it is something that is used. So I heard you say that it's not, but it is. It's something that's taught. I come from a family of police officers, soldiers, like combat vets. Dad's an Air Force Commendation Medal recipient. Like we are military and police, okay? But what I will tell you is not everybody is perfect. Okay. But I went into military. So what you have to understand is that there is a certain level where you have to understand that both were wrong. If you can't...
The prosecution found 5 different experts, forensic medicine specialist, a forensic toxicologist, pulmonologist and critical care specialist, forensic pathologist, and a chief medical examiner who did the autopsy. The defense brought in one person from, a former medical examiner of Maryland, and their only argument was there was a combination of factors like the heart disease, drug use, and potential carbon monoxide exposure. And they wanted the cause of death to be undetermined rather than homicide. So that's one person that the defense had. They could not find many people to take the case because it was a loser, especially when looking at the medical information. But the prosecution's side and their thorough investigation and lab reports are much more in-depth than what the defense had. And the defense had theories. The actual lab reports about the blood like you're talking about with the drug concentration, does not say at all that the drugs were the determinant factor. There's no evidence that George Floyd would have died that day at all, not even close, if this did not, if the knee was not placed on that exact place in his neck, restricting blood flow and oxygen and breathing for that amount of time.
Okay. Well, I pulled it up. I pulled up the lab report, and it shows that he had hydroxycodone in his system. He had Delta 9, THC. He had methamphetamine, fentanyl, norfentanyl.
Yeah, you can list all these drugs, but we need to look at the
cannabinoids,
actual toxicology
amphetamine.
reports.
No,
though.
I am. I'm
like
looking at it. I'm looking at the medical examiner report. He had amphetamines.
Okay,
So just so
okay,
you know,
I
and
don't,
amphetamine-
okay, I'm sorry, but
I know
looking
it
at the
probably
actual
doesn't help.
studies, it matters with the case though.
So
Like I'm looking at the actual case and like the cause of death.
It's literally from. I know it doesn't help, but just so you know, an
But all those drugs did
amphetamine
not
is
play a
an
role.
upper, an
Yes, I
amphetamine
know.
is an upper, and then all of these other things are a downer. And just so
Yes.
you know, when that happens to the system, that puts a ton of pressure on the heart. And you're saying that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I do. And that
I
doesn't
know
even
the stuff you're
include.
explaining to me. I also know, and I did not get degrees in for medical school or
That's
anything.
fine, but I didn't even get to the fact that he had morphine in this system, and that was before he got to the hospital.
They examined
So-
all of this in the same and the amounts. They worked with this case hand on and hands on came
Right.
to a very different conclusion. Even the person that was arguing against them had to make up the carbon monoxide thing. Even the defense
made
could
up.
not. Even you're giving a stronger defense than the actual defense gave right now because you're making up things that are not
I'm
included in
making
the
it
actual
up.
medical reports. No, you're
I'm
saying
glad
these
I'm-
are playing a stronger role than they actually played in this situation.
I'm glad you think so.
And
but
the
looking-
protocols from Chauvin still would be justifying what happened. And when someone's unresponsive and you have them cuffed and they don't breathe for 4 minutes, your knee's still on them. And someone keeps on bringing up how he yelled, I can't breathe in the cop car. That's not what we're talking about at all. I'm talking about the 4.5 minutes, not the total 9 minutes, but the 4.5 minutes when Floyd is unresponsive completely and the
Right.
knee is still there. That's the big part. That's the part that probably got Chauvin the murder sentence, is the 4.5 minutes where he saw someone not breathing, not moving, and he's like, okay, I'm going to keep on doing this for whatever reason. That's the part that got him the murder sentence. If he would have stopped when Floyd became unresponsive and was like, holy shit, what am I doing? Then that might have been a completely different case. But part of a murder charge in this situation when you're handling someone is if you show any remorse during that situation. And he was on his neck and did not care, and his body was lifeless, and he did not show any remorse or care towards the body at all. So that can go into many of these different murder charges. And people in chat keep on bringing up him saying, I can't breathe in the vehicle. He probably was freaked out. Cops went up to his car and had guns trained on him. Of course, anyone's probably going to freak out in that situation. Anyone's going to freak out in this situation.
Okay.
That's
I
not even
have a
evidence alone
question.
on the other end.
Question. Leading up to the events that led him there, do you think that he was wrong in his behavior in the store that led the cops to show up at the car, that led him to shove those drugs in his mouth, that led him to behave in the manner that he did, that led him to end up on that ground? Do you think at any point it was his fault?
Being a drug addict in that situation. So when I look at it, I grew up in a very white area, 99% white. And I don't blame drug addicts for being like drug addicts or
Okay.
being in shitty situations. So I would say
Okay.
like in that situation, yes, like you'd say that the person's at fault in terms of like their actions on that day. But when it comes to like being a drug addict and do I think having a $20 bill, a counterfeit bill, being enough to have guns trained at you in a car? I don't think that either. You probably, if they would have approached the situation differently from the cops' perspective as well, knowing this person might be an addict, knowing not knowing this person at all, maybe approaching them differently could have helped de-escalate the situation without them having a complete panic attack. So like obviously, I would say no, because a counterfeit bill, that's bad, and being on drugs is bad, and reacting like that when being detained is also bad. But also, that would not change my mind when it comes to like this case.
Okay, well, I thank you for being honest and explaining that to me. It helps me understand my next little dialogue here. So, here's the thing: police officers never know who they're going to encounter, ever, ever. Sometimes people who are on drugs or have drugs, they go up to the window and they have a bullet fired at their head, or they get shot, or they get shot in the head, or whatnot. And I know this, okay? So even over a counterfeit $20 bill, sometimes less than that. Sometimes they just get pulled over for speeding. They'll pull someone over for speeding, and someone will have drugs in the car, and they're not supposed to be driving or whatever, or something goes on, and they're just like walking up like, oh, it's just a Monday morning or whatever, and then they're just like, hey, can I get your license and registration? And boom, shots right out the window. So while you respectfully think that this is no big deal and it was out of line because
No,
of
no,
how it
I'm
ended.
not. I'm not one of those people. I understand those processes. I'm not one of those people on the left. I don't think that police are bad because they have to do these things. I think it's incredibly scary to go in random cars or to do traffic stops at night or to go into someone's window or to respond to a call. I understand that. I understand the protocols within this. I am not the audience that you're directing this towards. What I'm saying, all I'm saying is that like George Floyd in that situation, when looking at the body cam footage, I think he was responsive enough to begin with. And like it wasn't like the worst infringement on the cops saying like put your hands up. He did put his hands on the steering wheel. Like he did comply, but then he started having some type of a panic attack when he was
No,
actually.
he was high. Honey, he was high.
Are you saying you can't have you could have a panic attack as well, and while you're being detained? And by the way, any person, even if you're not high, are you saying that like that's not grounds for someone having anxiety? If they're
Listen,
being
you have to
taken and being
understand,
arrested?
he wasn't on cloud 9. He was on cloud 18, okay? So you have to understand, for the safety of the officers, that they now are more on guard because they don't know what to expect.
We're not talking
They're like,
about this though. That's not. I don't care about this part. I understand that part.
But this
They don't know what
part
to
isn't-
expect. I
you're
agree.
wanting to
But
skip-
the part we're talking
you're
about
wanting
is
to skip
the
over
knee. The part we're talking about is the knee and the
okay,
unconscious
but how
person.
do we get to the knee? The thing
It
is,
doesn't.
how do we get
Okay,
to the
to
knee?
that point, it doesn't really matter.
To
The
you.
part that matters is the part that matters is the unconscious body for 4.5 minutes that you have the knee on
Right.
and the person you're killing.
Listen, and that's what I'm trying to get you to understand. The question that I asked you 10 minutes ago, is there anything in your mind that says, okay, maybe both of them were wrong?
Okay, so if we say, like, for example, we're in an argument, okay, we are arguing back and forth, we're in a bar, and we get into a bar fight, and I push you, and let's pretend you're not you, let's pretend you're like a guy or whatever. I push you, you push me, we start, like, fighting or whatever. One guy grabs a bottle, and, you know, in this fight, we both did something wrong leading up to it, but someone grabs the bottle, smashes it off the wall, and now they have a broken bottle with a, broken glass, and they stab me and kill me. Up to that point, we both did something wrong, but I would say that one person escalated force to a point that was beyond reasonable, very unreasonable, and that person would still be blamed, for doing that. Unless if, and that it's like leading up to the moment, you could say like, okay, well, this person like was called, by the, by the people there for counterfeit $20 bill, and then the person was having some type of a panic break when they arrested him. You could say that he was high. And then at the point of, you have him on the ground and you have a knee on him, and he is now unconscious for 4.5 minutes. And it's a maneuver not even taught by the police, the department there or whatever, the police training they have there. Then that's the point that is really the focus, is the unconscious body, the lack of remorse for the person who's unconscious underneath you. That's the big point. Like 4.5 minutes is a good amount of time to keep that pressure on that exact part of the neck when someone is not breathing, when someone's not even responsive at that point. Because people talk about the 9 minutes, but the 4.5 minutes to me is the really bad part.
Right. And again, I understand exactly what you're saying. You say a panic attack, but from their point of view, it was more like resisting arrest, and they were assessing the situation. They said, get out of the car. He looked like he was going to get out of the car. He got back in the car. They have to make sure to remove him from the situation, especially when they notice he's high. So that's resisting arrest. Then they have to be more like, you have to get out of the car. Then it becomes more exaggerated when he makes a scene and he brings other people involved, gets other people
But do you
in the crowd
realize
involved.
the case, like I said before, everything you're saying right now, I already said when we started talking
Right.
that leading
Well,
up to that point,
yeah.
you could say, okay, I already said that. Okay, obviously, George Floyd, we don't, and I know people on the conservative party in America like to act like people on the left talk about George Floyd as a savior, as a hero, as a messiah. No, like it's just someone that people view as being a victim of excessive force from law enforcement and became a symbol, not because they were an amazing person or did the best things, but because they were victims of something. It was not like a chosen hero. We're not saying this person's great. We're not saying they did nothing leading up to this. What we're focusing on is the engagement between Chauvin, because there were other officers there as well, but between Chauvin and Floyd. And you could say like, okay, they don't know what's happening up to the point of the knee. And then when he gets to the knee part, now this is where the public got really upset, is seeing the knee on him and him saying, I can't breathe and struggling. Okay, that's where the public kicked in. But the excessive force and law in the courtroom, the excessive force came in the second half when Floyd is completely unconscious. And the knee is still on him. So that extra time, the point where Floyd was unresponsive, you no longer need that force at all. If Chauvin, like I said, if Chauvin would have stopped there and would have said, okay, this guy's unresponsive, get medical here, we'll make sure he's alive and sedate him and get him to wherever he needs to go, that would be completely different. But that extra 5 minutes, that's a long time. 5 minutes, especially in a situation like that, that is the big part that sent this over the edge, where the murder charge came into play.
Right. And this is where I think we can agree. I think that if it were me, if I were him, once I realized that he wasn't moving, I would have immediately assessed the situation and checked for a pulse. That would have been me. Okay. But I also wasn't there surrounded by people that were screaming. So they were.
Yeah.
Well,
why would the screaming influence you? Why would the screaming influence that process there?
Okay, so it's kind of like if you are, okay, I can only, bear with me because I can only give it to you in a military context, okay? Just imagine that you are in combat, right? And you have somebody in front of you that you are trying to arrest or take into custody. You're trying to take them back, right? And you've got them in handcuffs or whatever. So you're trying to focus on the person right in front of you, but you are surrounded by the enemy. And they are screaming at you, but you are trying to focus on the person in front of you that you're trying to take into custody, but you are surrounded by the enemy and you've got your weapon in front of you and you are just trying so hard to focus on that, but you have to be mindful of everything around you to make sure that, that you don't have something coming your way. You don't have bullets coming your way. You don't have, you always hear mortars or whatever, but you don't have anything else coming your way. That is exactly how they felt there, because suddenly you get screaming over here and screaming over there. You're waiting for backup. You're waiting for EMS. You're waiting for all that, but it's not there yet. So he was probably, okay, I've got him secure. So I'm in this position. I've got him secure. And that's why he's constantly looking around. You notice in the video, he's looking back and he's got his hand on his knee and his hand on his back and he's looking around. And I know exactly what it's doing. He's assessing around him because he's got enemy combatants. I'm not saying the people are, but that's my military.
Yeah, and my big thing is as well, like in that situation, when your job is to, your responsibility as an officer in that situation, I would probably say the people yelling, stop, probably shouldn't dissuade you from being able to do your job in that situation.
No,
and you probably,
it's not just people yelling stop in that situation. You got to understand, you don't know if those people have a weapon. You don't know any of that. You are assessing it because those people are mad. Anything can become a weapon there. You don't understand. It didn't, but in the moment you don't know if it will. Because you don't know.
Yeah, but that's true of every situation everywhere. I mean that's true. But the thing is, it still does not excuse. Like, do you? And I think you said you would have assessed the situation there. But
I'm not saying it does.
Did you see the trial? Like Chauvin also, he showed zero remorse at all. Like if you watch the trial, he did not feel bad about what happened. I think he said my condolences like once or twice, but he did not feel bad. He did not say he did anything wrong. He did not admit like, okay, well, I regret parts of this or whatever. That would have helped him as well. But he seemed cold when he was talking about it. He did not seem like he cared at all, other than that he was under attack. Like he felt like he was a victim and nothing bad happened to anyone else. Like Chauvin did not show any remorse at all, and that plays a big role when looking at someone's motivations for doing something. If you would have said like, I can't believe this happened, or like if you would have said like he did not even make the argument explicitly.
You don't know what it's you don't know what it's unless you've ever served in any kind of capacity like that. Listen, I'm not speaking for him, but like anytime a life is taken, anytime, just try not to speak for the person. Like he may not even know what to do. And that particular case, in that particular situation, you're going to be known for the rest of your life, including your whole family. Like, oh, well, you killed George Floyd. Like it literally may have been an accident. How do you even speak to the world about that?
And Chauvin himself did not say there was any influence from the crowd. Like Chauvin himself did not say that. That was part of the defense's argument. In the actual testimony, that was not part of what Chauvin brought up.
Like you're speaking for a man, okay? You're speaking for a man without truly knowing. Look at his face. Watch the video now. Next time you watch the video, look at his face. Read his face. Like it's easy to surmise sometimes both sides and judge both sides based on like affiliations. I really try not to do that. Like when I look at George Floyd and I hear about his life and everything like that, I don't judge him based on my personal views. I sit here and try to look at a man who went through a lot and it just ended in a really awful way. Okay.
So okay. So the three big points here, because I know we can go on for a long time about this, but the situation itself, and you can say like you don't know what people are thinking, you don't know their emotions in that time, you don't know why they make the decisions they make. I agree we should give that like I don't know, patience for people, but there's also a lot of really shitty people in these positions. It's not great people all throughout all law enforcement, all throughout all military. I would say that the vast majority of people in these positions are serving their community, serving their country, and should be respected for doing that. But that's not like a free pass. Mm-hmm. There are many terrible people who are in these positions as well. So that's not like I definitely appreciate you sharing that. I definitely want to take that into account when looking at, especially when there's like a traffic stop at night and and someone isn't complying with like put your hands on a steering wheel or whatever. I think there should be more patience than sometimes the left gives that situation, or at least the left that's presented on the internet. But like the big points are, like I said before, just before we got off this call, the and for the new viewers that joined, so the neck, the use of force analysis with law enforcement professionals, they pretty much all agree that the use of force was excessive and not in line with what they were actually trained to use in those situations. And even if that was a temporary use of force, and that was a temporary way to get someone who's like strong and having a reaction to stop doing that, it should have been adjusted. And the 9 minutes of that use of force also was examined. The public reacted to the first 4.5 minutes. But the courtroom reacted especially to the second 4.5 minutes. So the first 4.5 is when George Floyd was yelling, "I can't breathe." The second half is when he was completely unresponsive and the force remained. And then the expert testimonies, pretty much every medical expert testified that the sustained pressure on his neck, and that was the impeding his breathing and blood flow. That was the main cause of his death. Even if there were drugs present in the system, you could talk about that for a bunch of different reactions to what happened. And you could say like, okay, well, I think it played some type of role, whatever it might be. It does not change the use of force being excessive. It does not change how long we know the knee was on the neck. And also, even the defense's testimony from their medical expert didn't even argue that that the use of force was justified. They just argued that the death itself was a combination of factors, and they did not even want to absolve the death completely, just make it make the cause undetermined. Pretty much, and the defense had much less to stand on with the medical experts than the prosecution did. But yeah, I'll give you the last thing for this.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think we agreed on several points, and I think that that's good. I mean, I think that if you have two different views in a lot of things in life, and you can come together and agree on several points, I think that's fantastic. And I think for me, I think that I think that I do agree with you on, the last the second half of the pressure contributed, because in my personal view, I think that he had anxiety. I believe that he was having a panic issue, and with the drugs and the pressure, it was causing him to need to breathe more, which if anybody's ever had a panic attack or anything like that, you start to maybe need to catch your breath. Well, with him being down and having that pressure and his heart condition, I think that the combination of the drugs and the pressure, it was a lot. And I believe that that's what I believe it. I've seen a lot of patients go through things, and that's my personal belief. I don't know exactly what a lot of these people were thinking in court, but I just know what I've personally seen with overdoses, and what I've personally seen, like when I looked at the concoction that he had in his system between amphetamines and, basically depressants and amphetamines, which are stimulants. Like that's literally like it basically tells your heart to like go really fast, and the other ones tell it to slow down. And then with a heart condition, you're confusing your whole system. And so I think, I don't know. I feel very bad for him and his family. And then I don't know. I thank you for this opportunity, and it was a pleasure speaking with you and just hanging out. And I don't know. I truly pray for his family, and hopefully we can come together and have more conversations like this civilly, and continue to learn from one another. That's my thoughts.
I appreciate the call, and also for the chat. I saw someone say about a lack of pressure. The estimate from the examiners was that the pressure on the neck was 92 pounds for the duration of that 9 minutes. So that's a substantial amount of pressure on the neck. I have one last question. Just knowing the amount of pressure for that long, and you said you would have done something different in the second amount. Do you disagree that he was charged with anything at all, or do you think that he would be liable for like some prison time? You just don't think it should be murder?
For me, I think in this particular situation, because George Floyd was unconscious and he didn't try to render aid, I think that it would have been something that he should have been reprimanded and may have even like lost his job. I don't necessarily think that he should have been necessarily charges. I think that it's something that would have been more like an accidental thing. I just think disciplinary action for sure, but I don't know. It's one of those things. I mean, it's kind of like if you're on the job and someone dies from food poisoning, should you go to prison? If you're working as a cook and someone gets food poisoning and dies,
if you give them raw chicken, yeah, probably. Maybe
Yeah.
if you
Well,
give them raw chicken and you
yeah,
don't
but
do
what
your
if
due
you didn't
diligence to make
know-
sure, or if someone says they have an
Yeah.
allergy and you give them nuts, and it's like, okay, well, you did
Yeah.
your job wrong though.
Well, yeah, but how many people that even listen to this are like, well, wow, I cook, I work at Dairy Queen.
But it's
I
also
work
like
here, I
it's
work-
not nuts and food though. It's 92 pounds of weight on someone's neck for 5
No.
minutes after they're unconscious. So that I'm all I'm saying is
Right.
like when you look at like law enforcement, this is what makes people lose trust on the left with law enforcement, is because people look at the situation like, okay, well that's a lot of force and a lot of weight on the neck for a pretty long time, pretty substantial amount of time, and only losing someone's job. It just seems like, why would some people
Right.
trust that if you're just gonna like lose your job
Okay.
and move on to a different job? You could say there'd be social
I can help.
repercussions.
Let me help you understand. Are people everywhere perfect?
No,
Am I
but
perfect?
people can.
Are you perfect? No, but no, I'll help you. All I need is yes or no for just a minute. I'm going to hijack your show for a minute. If nobody is perfect, but you expect perfection from everybody, then thus you must be perfect.
But can I say that for literally anything?
Right.
Like, can I say that for Jerry Sandusky?
Aha. But if you expect perfection, then you must be perfect. And here's the other thing. What were we told as children?
It's
What's
not about
like the
perfection, by
first-
the way. But okay, I'm sorry. But like I already said that he could have made mistakes and still not have put 95 pounds of pressure on his neck for 5 minutes when he's
Right.
unresponsive. And that's not about
if
perfection. That's
he is-
about complete dereliction of duty.
But okay, dereliction of duty, but that's not murder. That is literally lose your job. That is lose your pension. That's not murder. You just said it.
A dereliction can still be murder, but he didn't.
But that's
Again, the pressure on the neck
Murder
for
is
that long
intent.
was the big thing.
See what I'm saying?
It's not just in. It's
That-
not just in, murder is not just intent. There's different murder charges for different states and
Oh,
different.
I understand, but it's literally like when I went and I enlisted in the military. You know, I thought, well, I mean, I enlisted before 9/11 because I'm that old. But I was like, well, you know, back then I was like, oh, well, there's no, you know, it's peacetime or whatever. Then 9/11 happened, and I'm like, okay, you know, I never thought at that age that I would have to make decisions. You know,
and he
that-
got
that
second
life-
degree, but he got charged with second degree unintentional murder. Okay, second degree unintentional murder. So the intent does not
Right.
need to be there for that charge, and that's a Minnesota cause or charge.
Right.
And what federal charge did he get?
Right.
Let's see what.
So
federal-
what I'm explaining to you is if you expect perfection from the imperfect all the time. Now, I'm not saying mistakes don't happen, and I'm certainly not saying that people don't suck, okay? But then you're going to hold everybody to a standard for which you can't hold. And the thing that we are taught when we're younger is life isn't fair. Life isn't fair.
Oh, I forgot Chauvin had another unreasonable force case with a 14-year-old boy in 2017. I forgot about that. He pled guilty to
See,
that in 2017 as well.
If there's a pattern, that's different. But what I'm saying in life,
forgot
in
about that.
general, you know, life isn't always fair, you know?
No, I know.
mean-
Okay, but like my only thing is like I said before, if we can't look at the situation and say, okay, this is such a dereliction of duty, and the second degree unintentional
is.
murder charge
We
in
did agree it.
Minnesota, and then also I know, but like, and when we get to like, there's a pattern here. He did use unreasonable force before and was charged federally before and pled guilty in 2017 with a 14-year-old. If he has some type of pattern as well, all that people would say is, you know, and with Ben Shapiro in the video I'm watching, is like we should pardon him. I think that's kind of, you go to a jury, you have your day in court, and like the evidence is overwhelmingly against you. At that point, it's just really weird to revisit that and say, okay, this person should be pardoned or should be free,
Yeah.
because at that point, then people would say like, okay, well then basically, then an officer can do anything to civilians when detaining them, and they'll be.
Well,
And there's already a
I
lot of
don't-
immunity for officers. There already is a lot of immunity.
Well,
And I'm actually going to
I don't-
after you say this. But.
I don't necessarily think that, I mean, with the pardon thing, I'm not, listen, if anything, I think if they're going to do anything, just do a retrial and put everything in. You know, like there were some things that were left out, like do that. I think that there's so much pardon stuff going on right now that it's just so messy. It's so messy with the pardons. So I think that if anyone's going to get pardoned, just you need to be sure. You need to be a flat 100% sure with pardons right now. And this is me. This is me coming, and I'm conservative. So I'm just like, if you're going to pardon somebody, you be sure. You be darn sure. Like, don't play around with pardons. I'm so sick of the word. I'm sick of it because now we got all this mess with it. You know, it used to be something that was respected, and now it was like, hey, look, it's a candy shop of pardons. Does everybody want one? Like, where's the count? I'm sorry, I'm very Gen X, but it's like, can we have some accountability? Can we? And that's why I'm saying, even for him, like, we need to make sure. We need to absolutely unequivocally make sure with everything.
All right.
Like,
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation. I'm gonna
Yeah.
probably go to. I might go to bed. I might take one more caller, but yeah, I appreciate the conversation. Hope to see you around the show every now and
Yeah.
then. But yeah, I hope you have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye. I don't know. I didn't want to keep the conversation going, but I don't know what she means by evidence that needs to be put back in. I don't know. By the way, there was a Pennsylvania state Senate district. Okay, it's a Senate district that's plus 23 Republican. Plus 23 Republican. Okay, plus 23 Republican. This state Senate district in Pennsylvania, plus 23 Republican, flipped Democrat. Please drop a like and subscribe. Please drop a like and subscribe. Please drop a like and subscribe. Please consider donating. Thank you so much for the donation on Cash App. Thank you. Someone said for articulating good with that Trump sexual. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Casey. Thank you for the $10. Yeah, please consider donating to Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal. Really appreciate all the support. Really helpful for the channel. Yeah, really, really. Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Do. Trump is very careful. Let me see this race really quick. Plus 23R. Plus 23 Pennsylvania State Senate District just flipped in a massive upset for Democratic candidate James Malone. What are the results of this race, bro? What are the results of this race, bro? Oh, I love these. I love these titles. Democrat James Malone narrowly edges Republican Josh Parsons. Wow, some votes to be counted. Wow, brother. Thank you for another. Thank you, initials PB. Thank you so much for $10. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, if you want to donate, please donate. Please consider donating. Thank you so much for $10 on Catch Up. PB, thank you. I might be running for something. I don't know if I actually can, but I might run for U.S. Congress for fun. I'll talk about that later. But if you have any money, please consider donating it so you can help me run for U.S. Congress, of course. Hey, how about this, though? U.S. Congress is pretty big. I don't know if I'll be able to. I don't have any money. I have to figure this out. I have to do it. I have to do it now if I'm going to do it. Okay, so this district that flipped Democrat has not had a Democratic state senator since 1979. Oh, baby. Man. Plus 23 is crazy. I'm not going to lie. What's the last election here? Let's see. What district is this? 36th. Okay, 36th Pennsylvania Senate election history. How about this, guys? Wow. Major upset. Huge upset. I want to know the last election here. I can't find it though. Oh no, dude. Thank you. Portia, thank you. Rita, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. RQ. Yes, I will vote for you. Thank you for $10. Thank you for all the support. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Really support it. I really appreciate it. Not support it. Really support it. Yeah, really support it. There you go. Really appreciate it. Thank you. I'll take one more caller. Thank you for $10, Lynn. Super chat. Keep up the good work, Jolah. Thank you. Trump supporter here by show support here too. Thank you, Jake. Nice. This person really wants to talk. Hello.
Hey, what's going on, brother?
Nothing much. How are you?
Doing all right. The last person you were talking to, you were talking about Derek Chauvin.
Yeah.
I missed a lot of that because I came in at the last like 15 seconds of it. So what was the whole thing? It was he's a bad guy.
No, the actual evidence from the court case and excessive force, which is the reason that he was found guilty of second-degree unintentional murder.
Well, have you actually watched the body cam footage?
Yes.
Did you see in the opening when he first under arrest that the very first thing he said to him was, "Let me get you out of the street. I don't want you to get hit by a car."
Okay.
Was that because he wanted to kill him himself?
So you heard the charge, right? What did I just tell you he was found guilty of? For Chauvin. Or Chauvin. Chauvin, yeah.
I'm sorry, say that again?
He was found guilty of unintentional, okay? It's like a manslaughter charge, but probably a little bit more severe, but it was second-degree unintentional murder. It's a Minnesota state law that he's found guilty of. You do not need intent to be guilty of that.
So just doing your job and from what I saw,
we don't need to use words like doing your job. We can talk about the facts of the case. What were you gonna say?
No, doing your job, and again, from the body cam footage, the very first thing that I saw him say was, "Let me get you out of the street. I don't want you getting hit by."
That part doesn't
car."
matter at all. That part does not matter at all for the case, though.
Well, here's the other thing that people don't know about the George Floyd case too, is that he died like at the hospital 2 hours after the incident. So this whole thing of like pressing down on his neck, and also from behind, like, have you ever wrestled?
No.
Okay, well,
So,
I did in high school. You can sit on the back of my neck all day. You're not going to break my windpipe.
George Floyd
You'll
was
break-
not responsive the moment he got to the hospital.
You'll sever my spine.
He
before
was
you break my
unresponsive.
windpipe.
He was pronounced dead basically when he got to the hospital. He was already not having a pulse on his way to the hospital.
No, that's not true.
He had no signs of life upon emergency arrival. When he arrived at the hospital.
He
That's
died
not
2
true.
hours after.
That's not. No,
he
no,
died
that's
2
not
hours
true.
after he
What
arrived
you're
at the
saying, I
hospital.
know you want to yell over me, but that did not happen. He had no signs of life when he got to emergency personnel. When they got to the scene, he had no signs of life at the scene because he was unresponsive. He was unconscious for 5 minutes with a neck on his, or with a knee on his neck. He was unresponsive,
he swallowed
unconscious.
a bunch of fentanyl because that's what fentanyl
I know
does.
you want to
It
say that
affects
because
your
you were taught to
respiratory.
say that. You were taught to say that. But we could talk about the actual
No, I
case
wasn't.
itself, though.
No, I actually wasn't.
Yeah, I know, but you're talking about things that there's a case.
I know
You
how
realize
that-
there's
I
a
know how
court
that
case
works.
with evidence, right? There's a court case with evidence we can talk about. That's not just like your random.
Yeah, there was a court case that was scared of the public mob that needed a scapegoat.
There's medical examinations with actual medical science backing up like concentration of drugs in the system. Looking at.
I watched the court case.
Okay, looking at.
and the
Hey,
medical examiner
okay.
came out and said that he had multiple times the lethal dose of fentanyl in his system.
What
which
else
makes
did they
sense with
say?
the
What
I
else
can't
did they say?
breathe.
What else did they say?
I'm
I know
sorry.
you didn't watch it. I know you never watched it. You're reciting what you saw on social media because what did they say also, along with that?
Buddy. Again,
What did they say? What did they say along with that? I can tell you.
All right, tell me.
So the fatal dosage is for someone who has no tolerance. He had extreme tolerance. So when looking at the cause of death, the cause of death was
Okay, so he was a drug addict.
okay. So the cause of death was not influenced by that, and that's what the medical reports found. That's what they found with the impact of the physical force.
It was a white guy put his knee on his
Okay, now you
shoulder.
brought up race.
Alright,
Now you're bringing race into it. I'm talking about the facts of the case, but you conservatives get really emotional about these things. I want to talk about the case and
I'm
about
not
what
a
actually happened.
conservative.
Yeah,
not a
you are.
conservative.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. You're a centrist, whatever. You're a conservative, and you are calling in to try and make it okay for what Chauvin did. And I'm talking about the facts of the case. You're bringing up
voted
white and
for
black. You're bringing
Obama.
up race. I don't
What
care
the
if you voted
fuck?
for Obama. You can be racist and vote for Obama. Or not racist. You can be conservative and vote for Obama. You could still. Many conservatives voted for Obama. I know tons of Trump voters that voted for Obama.
Jesus Christ, man. You got to calm down. But
Is that your
again-
projection? Is that your projection because you're a dumbass? Okay, we could talk about the case, or do you want to keep talking about race
But-
issues? Because you conservatives love talking about race issues all the time.
Common sense, or we can talk about common
Okay,
sense.
no, we
and
don't
you
need
can-
common sense.
you
We have
can step
facts.
on the
We
back
have
of my-
facts. We have
Buddy, listen to
facts.
me.
Okay, if you have
Listen.
95 pounds of pressure on your neck from the back for 9 minutes and you're unconscious for half of those minutes, then yeah, that's excessive use of force and that can kill you.
No, it can't, because again, I used to wrestle, and if you put pressure on the back of my neck,
I care about professionals, not your high school wrestling. I don't care about your high school wrestling.
Spine before you break my trachea.
What about breaking a trachea? It's about the pressure on the back of the neck and blocking airflow and blocking blood flow.
Again, you'll
There's
sever
medical
my
examiners
spine.
that did this. We don't have to talk about your failed high school wrestling career. I was probably a better athlete than you were. I could talk about athletics way more than you can. I'm probably a much better athlete. But we don't need to talk about that. We can talk about the medical examiners and their actual facts. I have facts. We don't need common sense. We have facts. Common sense is for people that don't have facts. Because you have to say common sense because you don't have any.
Common sense is for people who don't have facts.
Yeah, it is. Because people that say common sense are the dumbest people in the world because they need to say common sense because they don't actually prove they have common sense. People with actual common sense don't need to say they have common sense to prove it. That's why I never say common sense because I actually just make my point.
Understand that if you put pressure on someone on the back of someone's neck, you'll sever their spine before you break.
That's not how that works. That's not how that works.
Don't know human anatomy?
The exact amount of pressure. The medical examiners. Okay, what medical degree do you have?
I'm a mortician.
Okay, what medical degree do you have?
Wait, hold on. Wait. We're gonna use credentials. I'm a mortician.
No, I don't care about no. I brought up credentials just because you brought up your high school wrestling career as credentials. First off, I don't care about credentials. We have the court case. We have the medical examinations. We could talk about the actual concentration of drugs. We can talk about the amount of weight on George Floyd's neck.
And you have the dumbass.
Yeah, you're a dumbass. Yeah. The way you're talking right now in this conversation is not very appealing.
No, because you don't know. Because if you step on the back of someone's neck, you have to sever their spine before you break their trachea. That's just human anatomy.
What are you saying? Why do you think the human neck is so weak? 95 pounds is enough to stop airflow. It's not going to sever your. It's not going to sever your neck. Oh, now you got to call me that because you are actually more projection. More projection.
Jesus Christ, retard. If you want to break someone's trachea,
more projection, yeah. You have common sense.
You have to sever their spine before you do it.
Oh, really? Got to step on the spine. I know you. Okay, I know you're used to hitting it from the back, especially with men. But let's talk about the truth about what really happened here. So 95
pounds. Being
gay
was okay, and
it
using
is.
that as a sexual slur.
I affirm you. I believe in you. You are free to do whatever you want to do. You love whoever you want to love.
I am gay. I suck cock. That's
okay. This is a
doing.
Normal conversation with a Trump voter and a conservative that goes into these random tangents. And by the way, all conservatives, you're not like this. This guy's just a little silly. He watches too much Facebook and YouTube Shorts and all that kind of stuff. That's why he found this channel, of course.
You want to pretend that you can break someone's
trachea about the facts.
by stepping on the back of the neck.
Why are we talking about a broken trachea? We're talking about blood and airflow. We're talking about airflow. We're talking about being able to breathe. We're talking about being unconscious for 5 minutes and still having your knee on someone's neck when they're unconscious.
You were just admitting that you don't understand human anatomy.
When did I understand human anatomy?
Because you think you can fucking break someone's trachea by stepping on the back of their neck without severing their spine.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about human biology, anatomy. You can't step on the back of someone. Dude, I will let you.
Why are you talking about a trachea? I'm talking about not having. Why are you talking about broken severed tracheas and broken bones and stuff? I'm talking about not breathing. This has nothing to do with this conversation. Do you think his neck broke?
No. That's
why are you bringing this up? I'm talking about the airflow. No, I'm talking about the airflow, oxygen. You need oxygen to live, believe it or not. We can talk about the court case and why they found him liable for second-degree murder unintentional.
Okay, since you're such a paragon of human anatomy, how do you cut off someone's airflow by stepping on the back of their neck?
You can cut off someone's airflow with light pressure from your palm.
If you cover the carotid artery, not if you step on their shoulder or the back of their neck.
You think if you put your knee on the back of someone's neck when they're pushed on the ground that they're going to be able to breathe?
100%.
Like actually on their neck.
100%. Yes, you can breathe. Yes.
You're the one denying human anatomy. I don't know what you think. I don't know. What is this conversation, dude? Why do you guys do this kind of thing, bro? Why do you guys do
are you
this?
fucking
We have.
retarded? I will let you
Calm
stand
down.
with full force on the back
I know.
of my neck.
See,
I will still be able to breathe.
mature adults watch this conversation. They know you're acting like a 12-year-old, and they see me calm, cool,
No,
collected,
you're
actually
fucking
citing.
You're retarded.
Yeah,
dude.
keep going.
You have
Keep
no
going.
idea how fucking
Okay,
human anatomy
this is why people are gonna realize that this whole Trump shit's gonna fall apart really quick because people like you are gonna be on the
It has
forefront.
nothing to do with
And
Trump.
I'm
I
just
didn't
saying.
even
I'm just
invoke
saying.
Trump
I'm
into
just
this
saying.
or
Okay, you probably
conservatism. This
okay.
is just human anatomy. You're fucking retarded, dude. If you really think, okay. If choking people kills people, why is it allowed in UFC fighting? Yeah, exactly.
Bro, you're not this. Are you a troll? You're not this stupid, bro. There's no way.
No,
in hell
you're this fucking stupid.
bro. Oh my god, bro.
Buddy, you can stand on the back of my neck all fucking day, and I'll still be able to breathe.
Oh, bro,
you
if
wouldn't
it's
know
bad,
'cause you're a
if it's
fucking
bad
skinny
to hit
fucking
people, why
pussy.
do they let boxing happen? Why do they let them hit people in boxing, bro? What the hell? I thought punching people hurts them. Why do they box each other, bro? It seems like it's in the context of a sport. Might be a little bit different. I don't
exactly. So wait, exactly. Why do they let people hit each other if it kills you at the end of the fucking day?
I don't know. You know, it's an interesting question, dude. You're onto something. You're onto something, and it's definitely dick.
But again, I want you to explain to me how putting pressure on the back of someone's. First of all, it wasn't even on the neck. But even if it was,
It was on the neck. It was.
Okay.
I know you saw the. Did you see the Steven Crowder video where he? Did you see the Steven Crowder video where he reenacts it?
I'm sorry. What?
Did you see the Steven Crowder video where he reenacts it?
No.
Okay, because he did it wrong.
You have your spinal cord in front of your trachea. So again, if you put pressure on the back of someone's neck, you can still breathe. I don't know why you think that's like a fucking like crazy fucking thing. Like that's just human anatomy. Again, I'll let you stand on my neck. I'll still be able to breathe.
I'm not gonna kink shame you, but like we don't gotta do that. We have the examinations of the areas
exactly.
of the back and the neck.
You just because you don't understand how.
Yeah, how could putting your knee on someone's
anatomy
neck prevent
works.
them from breathing? I don't know, bro. That's crazy. I don't know. I don't know how to talk to you. I don't know. I don't know, bro. I don't know. Simple human anatomy. I don't know.
Hey, you never taken an anatomy class?
Guess not, man. I mean,
I guess not, because you think that if someone touches the back of your neck, you can't breathe.
It's not about touching the back of the neck. It's about having someone's or half of their body weight on your neck as you're on the ground with your head to the side.
You can put your full body weight on the back of someone's neck. You'll sever their spine before you break their trachea.
No. Okay. Why are you saying
No,
broken
no,
trachea?
100%.
It's not about
You're
broken
fucking
trachea. It's about restricted airflow. I could choke myself like this and stop being able to breathe. Yeah, it is. When someone dies with no oxygen, that's what it's about. That's what the entire case is about.
Then riddle me this, Pakman. What arteries and what airflow is being restricted through the back of your neck? No, seriously. Tell me. What airflow is being restricted.
I want
from
you
the
to
back
think
of your
about.
neck?
I want you to think about like how he was actually on the ground. You said you watched the tape. His head was like to the side. So like you know how you choke someone out like with their like the sides of the neck.
No, I watched the body
so
cam.
the knee
his
was
knee,
on.
His knee was on his shoulder, which is protocol.
The knee was okay. It was not protocol. Every excessive force expert in the
it
country
was
essentially
100%
agreed it was excessive
protocol.
force.
And again, if you actually
The actual
watch
experts
the
agree this is excessive force. But by the way, the knee was on the side of the neck. The knee was on the side of the neck. So you want to say like back shoulder, side of the neck right here, and you're pushed against the concrete. And for 4.5 minutes, he was on the ground struggling, and then he passed out. And then for 4.5 minutes, he was unconscious, and the pressure remained on his neck. And he could not.
What
and
about
oxygen was
all the
not going
times
through.
that he wasn't being restricted when he was in the cop car when he was saying I can't breathe?
Wow, what about
which-
all the times that you weren't gay? I don't know. We can't really talk about that because we're talking about like the times
Whoa,
you were
why are
gay.
you using gay as a slur? I thought being
I'm
gay
not.
was
We already
okay.
talked about this, and we went through this, and I want you to just stop being such a woke, just such a woke.
Whoa,
And I want you to just talk about
calm
the
down,
facts
bro.
at hand because it's okay. We can talk about the facts. You don't got to be afraid. You don't got to run from them.
I mean, I am gay, and I take offense to that.
You are amazing. So yeah, the air flow is restricted to the point
you're
of
being an
unconsciousness,
asshole.
and then
You're being an asshole right now. I actually am gay, and I take offense that you as a slur.
congrats, buddy. Okay, so anyways, about the facts of the case. So
No,
when
no,
we talk
no,
about
no. I'm gonna gloss over this. Why are you being an asshole? I am gay, and you're being mean to me.
congrats, buddy. Okay, so anyways, about the facts of the case.
No,
with
you're
George
using
Floyd.
gay as a slur, you fucking asshole. Stop being an asshole. What the fuck?
Okay, happy Pride Month. In a few months, I'm proud of you. So anyways, okay, so I affirm you. I care for you. I love you. I love you how you are. God made you like this.
No, you
and God
don't,
loves
because you
too.
were just calling it a slur.
You guys are so funny. Keep on doing this. You'll see how quickly Democrats win again. Like, I swear, bro. Oh my goodness, you're
No,
the new
they won
SJWs. You
so
really are
quick
the new
that they
SJWs.
lost.
You're the new SJWs. Holy crap! I don't even like the Democratic leadership. They got to kick them out, like Chuck Schumer. I hate Chuck Schumer. But anyways,
Oh, 100%. I agree with you. I think the
but
I
still,
think the
but
Democrat
still,
Party.
if
I think the
if
Democrat
you are the
Party
new
needs to wake up.
Republicans, oh my goodness, you're the new SJWs. This is terrible. I'd rather hear about land acknowledgements for 5 hours than listen to your dumbass. Holy shit. You can't even talk about
No,
the facts of
the
something.
Democrats
At least
need
you know,
a
at least
new
regular
Tea
SJWs
Party
can have a
name.
conversation. Oh my god.
You're just
Riddle me this,
being
Batman.
crazy right now, bro.
That's what I also say when I don't have an argument. I just call people crazy and say I have
No,
common
you do.
sense.
You start calling them gay slurs when you don't have an argument.
No, I did not call you gay slurs, buddy.
You did. You were like, "Oh, you're gay."
Well,
You
I
fucking
apologize. I'm sorry. How do you feel about trans people?
asshole. Who cares?
Do you think trans people should be able to adopt?
I think children should have a mother and a father because that's human nature.
So you're okay. Well, I'm with the gays. So I stand with the gays.
I don't think
The
gay
gays are
people
my
should
armor.
acquire
The
children.
gays
I
are
think
my
children should
armor.
have a mother and a father because
The gays are my armor. I'm allowed to call you
guess what?
gay.
The creation of a child requires a mother and a father.
What if the mother can't have kids?
I'm sorry, what?
What if like a mother cannot have kids, but the she's infertile and the guy's firing blanks, you know? Can they adopt?
Does the kid still have a mother and a father?
I think you could have two fathers and be great. And two mothers, I think that's great.
So you think a child should grow up without their biological mother or without their biological father?
I truly do believe that if you're in a world with so many kids who need homes, if you're gonna talk about like gay people should not be able to adopt, I think that's really stupid.
Okay, well let me ask you this: if you're in a world with so many kids that need homes, why are we in a world where we're just creating kids for two gay couples?
I'm talking about should gay couples be able to adopt? That's nothing about what you just said. Like, should they be allowed to adopt?
That's tough because I think childs do need homes, but children do need a mother and a father. They need that juxtaposition.
I mean, some of the most successful men in history are from single mothers and stuff, like LeBron James.
And that's also the same group that has the most kids that grow up into poverty and grow up to be criminals. So what's your point?
I think those factors correlate more with being poor in poor areas with no opportunities. Which do have higher rates of like single parents if you're in a poor area, but that's not because they're single parents.
All All right, so this is very confusing. So, because 1 out of like a million might become financially successful, therefore single mothers or single fathers are okay. And also, Americans can't they can't have stable lives, but we need to pour in millions and millions of low IQ immigrants because why?
Low IQ immigrants? What the hell? There's low IQ whites too in America. Should they not be able to like reproduce?
So your argument is because Americans are low IQ, we need to import low IQ third worlders.
No, I believe in the words of Jesus Christ. I believe we should be welcoming those who are running from persecution, just like Jesus was. Jesus was a refugee, and I believe in that
Jesus Christ flipped the tables of the money changers in the temple. So
yeah, we should also tax the rich. Yo, let's go! High five! Let's tax the rich too, buddy. Let's go! Let's go!
We already tax the rich. We already tax the rich. What are you talking about?
Go, baby! Did it!
We already tax the rich. What are you talking about? You realize like less than 50% of Americans actually pay taxes to like do anything within America, right?
Yeah. You barely pay on the you barely pay for the road you drive on every day. If you make less than $1 million a year, only people that make over $1 million really pay into the system.
That's not even true because it's called a regressive tax. And I actually, when I drive through tolls, I actually not only pay for the roads, but I pay for it again.
No, but toll roads are built because they're going to be making revenue from the tolls. I'm talking about public roads that are built from taxpayer dollars or infrastructure programs. But anyways, yeah, I think gay people should be able to adopt. I think trans people should be able to do gender affirming care and be accepted into society. And I believe in pronouns.
Well, let me ask you this. Here's actually the real reason I called you was because of your tagline that you had floating above your thumbnail, which was diversity is awesome.
Yes, it is.
All right. How can you say that when? Well, I don't know. I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I assume you're on the left.
Yeah.
What do you feel about cultural appropriation then? If diversity is awesome, but then also cultural appropriation is bad, how do those two things work together in tandem?
The amount of people that care about cultural appropriation is probably like 10% of Democrats. I really don't care about it. If someone's being offensive, like blackface or some crazy shit, then I mean, I'm against that. Or if you're like being really offensive with certain stereotypes, but if you're just having fun and you're truly a loving person who cares about other people,
well, no. I'm not even talking about like the comedic factor because personally, I like the comedic factor. I grew up watching Dave Chappelle, and when he would do whiteface, I thought it was fucking. When he did Chuck Taylor with the news, thought it was hysterical. I'm talking about like if you're one or have something that's like really cool, another culture can't adopt that. Cultural
just really quick. Thank you for $10, Hector. Really appreciate the donation. I'm gonna restart the YouTube short stream, so go over to the horizontal stream on my channel if you're watching. I'm gonna do my usual second or halftime thing. We'll continue this call for another 5 minutes and then go to someone else. But if you're on YouTube Shorts, I'm gonna send you to my other stream and then open YouTube Shorts again in 5 minutes. If you're there, you guys know how I do it. Thank you for watching. Go to the other stream. But yeah, cultural appropriation. I really don't. I think it's cool to share cultures. I mean, in a tasteful way. If you're being intentionally offensive in a way that's like actually offensive, like some people will just say jokes like that aren't even real jokes. Like for example, like, haha, isn't it funny that like black people don't have dads? Like that's just being offensive. But you can make an actual joke.
Well, I mean, but in terms of like making a joke, it's the thing about comedy is that it speaks true to realism. So like when you go, hey, you don't have a father, it's not that you're making fun of them. It's that you're bringing. It's like wearing the breast cancer ribbon. You're bringing awareness to a situation, and the only reason it's funny is because it's true.
Well, it's funny if you make it an actual joke. Like I hate the comedians that just go on there like Joe Rogan and he's like, Isn't it funny? I saw a man and he thought he was a girl. Like, I just think that's stupid.
Well, if it has any basis in reality, then yeah, it might be funny.
Well, I'm not going there for
Because,
political
yeah,
commentary. I'm
it's-
going there
it's-
for comedy.
I mean, if you're talking about like trans people, like men and women's sports, it's like, yeah, it's funny because it's like, yeah, you have a guy beating up on a little girl, and it's like the reason that's funny is because it's like, yeah, we all know that, yeah, men are stronger than women, and he's beating up on a little girl, and it's drawing.
Well, that
attention to
argument's
the fact
stupid
that,
anyway.
like, I'm sorry, what?
That argument's stupid anyway for kids in sports.
No, it's not, because here's the thing about trans people in sports. Why are we not talking about women dominating men's sports?
I just said kids in sports. I didn't say like women in men's
No, well,
sports.
no.
And
Let me ask
women
you
are
this.
better
How
at like
come-
some
how come-
sports,
how
like
come no. Let me ask you this: why is the argument always men and women's sports? Why is the argument never? How come women pretending to be men are not dominating men's sports?
I'm not someone who would disagree with reasonable people who don't hate trans people, by the way. So like that's my big disclaimer as well. I
I'm not
support
talking
trans
about
people.
hating trans people.
Okay,
I'm
well,
asking
let me
you a
talk for a
legit- I'm
second. I know
asking you
you're
a
afraid of
legitimate question.
afraid of hearing someone talk who's actually mentally stable, but
No, you're
support,
afraid of answering the
I
question.
support. I'm answering your question. Chill. Okay,
No,
I
you're not.
support.
You're
I
afraid of
support.
answering the question.
Hey, can you let me answer the question, or are you scared to hear the answer? Because I don't think you can engage on this topic without just being a dumbass. So you have to just yell over me.
No, I can't.
So like I support
can,
trans people and I support trans rights, and I do say there should be some type of regulation for competitive sports at the high school and collegiate levels, especially for those who are like trans. But when it comes to like co-ed sports, which are very popular in college, or co-ed sports, which are very popular for 14 and under, there should be no regulation in those areas, in my opinion, because we already do co-ed sports. They've been fine forever, and now they want to ban co-ed sports because of trans people, which make up like 0.1% of total athletes. But I mean, I agree there should be some type of regulation for competitive sports, and most people
All right, well,
do.
Can you answer my question then, which is how come women pretending to be men are not dominating men's sports? Why is it
Trans
only
men are not
a one-way?
dominating.
Why is it only a one-way
Trans
street?
men are not dominating men's sports because usually trans men are not going to be as strong as cis men, and that's normal. Yeah.
But you're gonna allow men who've gone through puberty.
Are you
set records
do you
that
have
women,
a Minecraft shaped head? Is your head shaped like Steve from Minecraft? And do you have ears? Can you hear me
I've
when
never
I talk?
played Minecraft.
Well, you sound like a dumbass. Okay, well, like I literally just said
Yeah,
that
sound
I
like a
agree.
dumbass, but you're the one.
Calm
You're the one.
down,
trying to
brother.
pretend like,
Calm
oh,
down,
hey.
brother. Okay, I literally just said a second. What did I just say? Tell me back. I'm gonna talk to you like you're a kindergartner. What did I just say a couple seconds ago?
I'm gonna talk to you like you're a fucking faggot because that's how you're acting.
Okay, what did I just say a couple seconds ago, buddy? You have big boy words. You can say big boy words. I know you're in Call of Duty mode, but okay, what did I just say about my opinion
never
on
went to
competitive
college.
sports? I don't care. Okay, what did I say about competitive sports at the high school and college levels? What did I say? What was my opinion?
What did you say about college that men do better against women?
No, I said, you just said, I don't get why you have men beating up women. What did I say about trans people in competitive sports in high school and college? What was my opinion there? I had a nuanced perspective, which is the nuanced perspective, the moderate position in America.
The nuance. No, it's not. By the way, it's not the nuance.
Say what it was then. Say what it was.
What, your perspective of that? Oh, women or men? Okay, first of all, Jesus Christ, it's confusing to even talk about this. Men cannot compete against women on. You said there's co-ed. Sure, fine, whatever. And guess
Yeah.
what? And during co-ed, the women get their asses stomped.
Sports aren't just about like domination. It's also about people having fun. So when it's in college and you have co-ed sports, playing
no, it's
volleyball or
not.
something.
Sports have always been competitive.
Some
my
people play sports to have fun. I know. Okay, some people just like go to the park and they have fun with each other.
Douchebags that fucking sit around and have tea parties.
I guarantee you, my sports accolades are far more successful than yours. I could talk on this topic
Buddy,
for sure.
you're like
okay?
5'2" and
I
fucking
am 6'2".
110
I'm
pounds.
6'2".
You ain't
I'm
fucking
6'2".
doing nothing.
I am
You
6'2".
ain't
I can run a
doing
sub
nothing.
2 800. It's not that good, but it's still something. I have probably 50 medals in
All
my
right, then
closet from
compete
that
against.
alone.
Okay,
so let me
okay,
talk
and then
about
use- and then
let me
use your-
talk
and then
about the
use your
actual. Let me
lame-
talk about my
use
actual
your
opinion here.
lame accolades,
Listen, you
use
should
your
let the
lame
experts speak
accolades
sometimes.
and
You should let
compete
knowledgeable
against the
people
best
speak
women,
sometimes.
and you're still gonna
Listen,
beat them.
just let me. I can't even get one full thought out because you're not letting me talk because you know you're like you don't need to be
Buddy,
like
you've been
this, brother.
yapping nonstop.
Okay, so what I said was, yeah, because I'm trying to get a point through, and you ask me questions, then you interrupt. But I said that in competitive sports,
Oh my God,
there should be
fucking
regulations,
whiner.
so like above 14. But we already have co-ed sports like 14 and under, which is completely fine. So a lot of girls, by the way, in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade play better than the boys because a lot of them hit puberty first. Not always, but a lot of the time. And like that's fine. Have co-ed sports, and then between the ages of 14 and 23, whatever in college, have regulations about this and have guidelines. And then after that, if you're in college, you want to play a co-ed sport. If you're not in NCAA or if you're not in whatever your sports are for your state, then yeah, let everyone play in their co-ed sports and have a good time with each other. And then have competitive sports in a different category.
Football? Do you watch football?
Yeah.
All right. Do you think any woman ever could be in the NFL level?
I just said that we should have restrictions and rules in competitive sports. That's a competitive sport. But if you're playing flag football in college, then you should be able to play with each other.
How does that not trickle down?
Trickle down what? I'm talking about just like when
Buddy,
people join like
buddy,
a co-ed sports.
When you have a high school boys team beating in soccer a professional women's team. What was it?
Competitive
It
sports.
was like 7.
Who are you arguing with right now? Bro, can you talk to me? I'm in front of you right now talking to you about my perspective on this. You are arguing with a ghost right now. You can talk to someone else if you want, but you're arguing with a ghost. I just said competitive sports.
I'm talking to a guy.
Competitive sports.
I'm talking to a guy who
sports.
thinks that women can beat men professionally in a sport.
Okay, I hope people watching this can see what's happening right now because I literally just said multiple times competitive sports should have guidelines for this.
They're laughing at you because they think you're a fucking douchebag.
Because you're not listening to me. I'm not even. You're saying something that I didn't say.
I don't need to listen to you. You're like, oh,
I know
women,
you don't care about other people's perspectives.
First, so therefore they can beat men in co-ed
No,
sports.
not men. I said for kids. Okay, listen again very carefully. Listen again. This is your final test. Under 14, we have co-ed leagues.
A bunch of 10-year-old girls can go toe-to-toe with a bunch of 10-year-old
So
boys.
for
First of all,
kids, believe it or not, kids at the age of 6 are not going to be Messi or Ronaldo. Usually do sports at a young age.
Are
Get
we
kids,
talking about kids or are we talking about professional sports?
I'm talking about, so for this conversation,
I'm talking about professional sports. You're talking about fucking 10-year-olds.
Okay, so I agree there should be guidelines with professional sports. Sure, I agree with that. Okay, so now moving back to the other topic. So I said if you're in high school...
let's stay on the same topic. Let's not try to fucking deviate because you're a fucking coward.
I'm not disagreeing with you on the professional sports, dude. Oh my God.
Laugh it up, fucking dickbag.
Yeah, because you're like, it's not that you're dumb. You're just a very stubborn person. You just can't have a good conversation. Because what I'm saying right now is completely reasonable.
Hey, girls when they're 10 might be able to be boys, but later on, that might not be the case.
I just said when it comes to big government crackdowns, there should not be rules and guidelines for fun sports, casual sports for under 14 or in college co-ed leagues. But if it's competitive in high school or college, there should be guidelines. Or professional sports or the Olympics, there should be guidelines. But in other areas of life, there should be other options, or there should be co-ed sports that are casual.
No, I agree. If you want to make a co-ed sport, then make it fucking co-ed. But here's the problem. Don't fucking stick a dude who's 6'4" on a swimming team against a bunch of 5'2" women who's going to break a record.
I didn't say
that.
A
woman will never beat
if you're not going to... I got to go to a different caller if you're not going to talk to me, bro, because what I just said would be included in those guidelines.
Being a pussy.
I'm not being a coward because I'm saying the things you're saying. I just said there should be guidelines for that. There should be rules for that. I just said that.
And I'm agreeing with you. If you want to do a co-ed
then stop calling
thing,
me a coward. You just sound like a little baby boy. Why do you got to be crying so much? Chill.
I'm not. Jesus Christ, dude.
Where is the love? Where is the
All right. Okay. Well. Okay. Can we go back to originally what I wanted to talk about?
What?
Which was your tagline, which is that diversity. So you're not a liberal that complains and whines about cultural appropriation.
No, I'd say that the vast majority of liberals are not like that.
Okay, would you agree with this, that if we actually followed the guidelines of cultural appropriation, that like 90% of the world would not be able to use any of the technologies or advancements that have been made by the Western society?
No, because cultural appropriation is about culture, not about like technology. It's usually about like, I don't know, some type of garb or wear or like
No, culture is
hairstyles or
totally,
whatever it might be. But like sharing
culture
like
is
the printing press
totally
is not
part of
exactly culture or cultural appropriation. You got to have different cultures exist and not steal from other cultures, for example. Like that's you know.
Okay, but okay, so you're saying that technology is not part of culture. So then, how do you explain uncontacted tribes that live in dirt?
Huh?
If you think that technology doesn't equal culture, then how do you explain uncontacted tribes that live like it's 500 years ago?
How do you explain Amish people that use credit card processing and solar panels?
They're not Amish. They're Mennonites.
No, there's Amish. You don't know anything, dude.
No, it's Mennonites.
Okay, so
Amish
the
people,
Amish, they have loopholes. So they have like
Amish,
someone else drive a car, or
listen.
they have someone else run the electricity, or someone else run the credit card processing. They have loopholes to it. They're not all Mennonite. There's a lot of Amish who just like use technology. It doesn't mean they're stealing cultures or like wearing different, like usually cultural appropriation is about like, I don't know, hairstyles or whatever. I think it's dumb to complain about that unless if someone's being actually offensive, which is like, there's a high bar for that in my opinion. It's not just using a hairstyle or like having braids or whatever. But like, yeah,
Yeah, so like, am I allowed to complain about black women who wear blonde wigs?
I thought you're
That's my.
I thought you're again. We're gonna hop off here, but you are arguing with a version of a liberal that you saw on Fox News or whatever. Because I have not said that at all. I have not said it's an issue for cultural appropriation. I think it's fine for everyone to wear hairstyles or whatever. If someone's not being disrespectful or just like lying about who they are, like if you're gonna put on an accent one day and just like try to be all silly, intentionally to insult someone, that's different from just like, I don't know, trying out different hairstyles. I have not, yeah.
Well, also, like, yeah, I don't know what kind of liberal you are, and I'm not trying to paint you in a, like, I'm not trying to paint you in a kind
Justin
of like.
Trudeau got painted
picture
in a
of what
certain
you.
way.
No, I really don't. But I'm just speaking in generalities. But if you think that's fucking retarded, I agree with you. I do.
Okay, I did not say that. Okay, I understand when people have sensitivities around those things. I just think we need to have different ways to talk about them. But hey, thank you for calling. Have a good night.
Hey,
Voicemail.
I'm an actual board-certified physician who's currently a surgery resident. Feel free to give me a call if you want a quick rundown of neck, trachea, carotid artery anatomy, and how much pressure, et cetera, it takes to cut off the blood supply. All right, sweet. Keep up the good work, dude. Your show is crazy entertaining.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm not sure. You didn't call since 11:45, but thank you for the call. Yeah, we could definitely chat about that quick if you want to call in again. I'm gonna take this call really quick, but if you send me like a text message to the same number, it's a fake Google Voice number, but if you send me a text, we could hop on there quick because that would be interesting.
New donation from the
thank
Deep
you.
State.
Thank you, Deep State.
$10, Jolah. Are we
Hello?
cooked?
You're cooked. Hello, what's up?
Oh, hey, is this Jolah?
Yes, it is.
Okay, how you doing, man? So, I really want to get something like this off my chest personally. I saw in a lot of your like news or descriptions for your videos or your taglines or whatever that Trump supporters are racist. I like the one that you said recently about especially your argument about the cultural appropriation, because I do agree with you that a lot of people, I think people are looking at the small majority and saying that, oh, well, you know, a lot of people are a lot of Democrats are like that, or a lot of lefts are like that. And this is coming from someone that's conservative, more leaning right if I had to like really pierce myself down. But I would say that I'm just more curious on your standpoint as it comes to, if you look at like the economy, if you can look at all the things that is going better for us now than it did in the past years, I see that as a good thing, and I don't see that as more of a racist intent. And I get it, that's probably two separate issues, the economy and how you see Trump as being racist. I want to ask you about both of these. Whichever one you want to start with first.
So for Trump being racist, I don't even care about using that word. But right now, what they're doing with violating due process for the Venezuelan migrants, saying they're all gang members and sending them to a prison in El Salvador when we're sending innocent people there. And the justification is that they're all gang members and they don't want any questions asked. I think that's inherently racist because you're saying you can tell someone's a gang member just by looking at them. We know for a fact innocent people are now in labor camps, even if they came here through the legal asylum process. America snatched them up with no due process. And you basically sold them into slavery at a forced labor prison camp in El Salvador. And I think that's really bad. And Trump himself has said you can tell they're criminals just by looking at them, which I think is a pretty racist statement. I don't care about that word, though, but we can talk about that first if you want.
No, truthfully, that makes sense. And to an extent, I can agree with you. Obviously, no one wants to see innocent people put in those predicaments. I personally haven't seen that myself, so I would after this, I would love to go do more research on it myself. I would actually need to see that in order to believe it, and I feel like you would think the same way if you were in my shoes. But regardless,
I'll get you something on that because most Trump supporters that call in, it's interesting with the media environments because this is a huge media story with it's probably the biggest legal case like Trump has had with the Alien Enemies Act. I mean, I could try to find someone's name, but if you look up like Trump legal Venezuelan migrant, look up like Tattoo. One was a professional soccer player who went through election shock torture. Electrical shock torture in Venezuela, escaped to America, legal asylum seeker. He was sent back because they thought a Real Madrid soccer tattoo was a gang tattoo. So look that case up in particular. I think that's the easiest one to look
up. Again. And one more time. Can you say the name of that one more time? Just so I can write it down.
Just look up like Trump legal. The words I put in are Trump legal Venezuela, and then you could put like a professional soccer player. I don't know the exact names. There was a soccer player, there was a barber, and there was a tattoo artist. But yeah, there's accounts, and we know for a fact many of them came in legally. Look up women, too. There were women. We sent women there accidentally, and they were turned away because they're women that were sent to an all-male prison. So if they're going to send women there mistakenly, then who knows who else they'll round up and accuse of being a criminal. And in my opinion, all of our taxpayer dollars should be focused on only going after violent criminals, not going after anyone for anything they say or like just like tattoos and stuff, especially with no due process. So yeah, I appreciate that you'll look it up and all that.
And I love to know things more that if I am wrong about a certain issue, then I love to correct myself on that. But I want to ask just on a more personal level, do you believe that opening our borders was a good idea? Like not having regulation, not having people go through the same due process that you were talking about while sending people over there. But in this case, them coming into America and them doing the due process of actually getting their immigration.
So yeah, for the cases I brought up, just for the audience that's watching, the cases I brought up are people that came in through legal ports of entry. But opening the border, that did not happen. The issue with the system is the U.S. immigration law and misunderstanding it and not having capacity for it. Because under U.S. immigration law, if you're seeking asylum, you can come in through a non-legal port of entry, and still seek asylum legally. So the Biden administration followed all the laws, and it's really hard to deal with. Unless if you're going to do it like what Trump is doing right now. He did not pass any border policy. In fact, they voted down that border bill that they tried passing during Biden's term. It's no policy. They are violating a lot of laws to do what they're currently doing.
Quick? I just want to say something because I find it ironic. You say that Biden uses policies that were basically saying that people were seeking asylum to help let millions of illegal immigrants in. One of my questions is, do you believe that all of these immigrants are asylum seekers? Second question would be, don't you find it a little, what's the word? I want to say ironic, but there has to be a better word for it. Don't you find it a little ironic that Biden was using this asylum seeking to try to get all these people into millions of people into the country, and then Trump is almost kind of doing the same thing as he's saying, oh, hey, I forgot what the act's called. You literally just said it.
Yeah, the Alien Enemies Act, but we can talk about that one thing. But with Biden and the border, so like the border bill they tried passing that Trump told Republicans to vote down, the current immigration law was followed by Biden. So he did not like open the borders, but the asylum law they were going to pass, or the border bill, it would have increased the capacity to hear asylum cases to see if there were reasonable asylum claims. And also it would have set a limit to where the border would be shut down if a certain number of people came over that day. And that is a mechanism that would need to be passed through law. in order for it to be like alleviated, the situation alleviated at all. But if we don't do it through law,
Again,
it's not going to be long-lasting change. That's why when Trump did like stay in Mexico or whatever, it did put some people, like, it wasn't a great policy. It put some people in danger that were forced to stay in like camps outside the border. But also it's just like we need fundamental law change. And Donald Trump is not, the reason I say he's not a leader is because he cannot get consensus with the American people or with Congress to pass actual laws for these things. That's why he's spamming. He passed more executive orders. He set the record for most executive orders signed in his first 2 months by far. Like he's far surpassing FDR. And if you know FDR's numbers of executive orders, that's a big freaking deal. It's insane how many executive orders he passed. I think he passed his first term executive orders. His first 2 years. It took him 2 years in his first term to pass this many executive or to sign this many executive orders. He never tries passing a law, which is what's necessary for long-lasting change.
I would say about the executive orders issue, I would argue that he wasn't put in the same predicament. Neither one of them were. The executive orders can vary depending on just what situation that the president is currently in. But besides all that, I would say that for the most part, I can see I can definitely see your side in this, but I would also I don't personally believe that the majority doesn't agree with Trump because he won the popular vote and all of his votes have been going up even since last year. And I would actually, you say it as executive orders. I don't know if you were saying it as a bad thing, but I've heard of it. I'm not saying that you are, but I've heard other people say that, oh, he's making all these changes. He's doing all this. He's doing all that. I'm like, how is that a bad thing per se? Don't get me wrong. We can argue about the whole immigration system because I obviously that is one of my issues. But have you noticed that a president in the past being this, what's the transparent? Has there ever been?
He's not been transparent at all, to be honest. Like the executive orders are bad because he's trying to bypass Congress and he's trying to bypass checks and balances. That's why he's doing executive orders.
I completely understand that, but he is being transparent because he is saying, hey, I am using this clause in order to do this. I am using the Aliens Act to do this. He's getting sent to court for it. Like they're
using the Aliens Act. I mean, they're already violating federal court rulings because they're doing unconstitutional things, and they're not even allowing courts to catch up at all. And that's on purpose. They're trying to flood the zone so courts don't have a chance to catch up. So that's a pretty dishonest tactic alone. And Doge,
well, there was only
Doge
one
has
judge that opposed that bald judge. I forget his name.
The judges they're yelling at are George W. Bush appointees. The one they said is appointed by Obama was actually appointed by George W. Bush initially, and then was actually elevated during Obama's term. But they're saying that Reagan judges are Marxist now. So they're trying to fully they want to defund federal courts they disagree with, which is also very authoritarian. But also Doge is not transparent at all. There's nothing there's been no cases of fraud shown at all in Doge. There's been no cases of abuse or even waste. They have not shown that. They've shown things they disagree with. They've shown things they're mad about, but nothing. If there's fraud, they would have a fraud charge or something. They're not being transparent at all with whatever Doge is. They're actually crippling Social Security right now for
Have you not seen any of the listings where it says this amount of money for trans rights in Saudi Arabia and
but that's a good example. That's a perfect example. They're bringing up things they're mad about, but they're not bringing up things that are actual waste, fraud, or abuse. You could say, okay, we don't agree with this initiative, but it's not waste, fraud, or abuse.
Oh, okay. So you're not saying that they're not sending the money there. You're saying that you don't see that as fraud because we don't know if there's a deeper thing in there. You could in your hypothetical, they're just sending the money over there and they're actually using it for what they claim to use it for.
I mean, they have not shown any proof of anything being sent somewhere that was not used. Honestly, they have not proven that. And if there was, I mean, there's reports from investigators generals and stuff that they threw out that actually do investigate fraud. They have not shown waste, fraud, or abuse so far, and they have not made government more efficient. They're actually going to increase the deficit by a lot.
I can totally agree with that, and I'm glad you said this because what my whole premise is, if you're going to go and you're going to give money to whatever it is. And we've seen that a lot of these programs are not American oriented. A lot of these programs are helping other foreign nations. I think the mass majority can agree when people say, well, why are we not using that money on us? Why are we not helping America first so that we can get better? Because we are struggling right now. The average American is not doing that great, at least right now. I don't know about any one of the listeners. I don't know about you personally, but I've had to work my ass off to get to where I'm at today. And even now, I'm
Yeah,
not
but the
satisfied.
thing is, like, we spend far more on tax cuts for the wealthy that they don't need, that they put back into stock buybacks than we ever do for foreign aid. And also, when we do things for foreign aid, it's to benefit America. It's to maintain trade routes. It's to maintain favorability with different countries for military relationships. Our foreign aid prevents wars. Us supporting NATO prevents wars. It prevents conflict.
Just out of curiosity, I can agree with that because us in
And it's
NATO,
and by the way, just one other thing, like
pay the majority
foreign aid is a very, 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 very small part of our budget. Killing that is just insanely dumb when it comes to saving taxpayers' money, especially because we're going to get less favorable trade deals and more wars and more violence as a result of pulling this money. And
no, I never once claimed to get rid of foreign aid. No, I would never say that. But again, if I can go back, you're saying that, oh, well, these foreign deals are basically to stronger the connection with these countries. But then I want to bring up that trans thing again, the whole sending money over to help support trans people. Do you really think that that's going to be like, oh, we're strengthening the nation? And on top of that, I would ask that the NATO, you're talking about foreign affairs. So the NATO business, we contribute more than all the other countries put together combined. That we contribute more. So, and then now Trump's come out and said, hey, y'all need to start paying your share. This is not fair. America cannot hold the weight of literally paying all of your
but that's not an
countries
argument, though.
combined.
Trump's lying when he says that. Like, it doesn't. America leads the global initiatives. Like, we pay more in because we're a bigger country. We do lead freedom globally.
Regardless,
but like, it's still,
I don't know that for
we
sure.
do get
but I can
benefit from
agree with
that.
you.
But also, when it comes to like funding, one big thing that USAID does, and China's very happy we're killing it. Russia's very happy we're killing it. We fund independent journalism in authoritarian countries. So USAID dying and NGOs dying is going to make sure that there's no media, no free press at all in China or Russia, or even getting close to their citizens. So that's one big thing that China and Russia are very happy we're withdrawing. USAID is going to help China spread. But when it comes to supporting like gay rights somewhere, for example, or a gay pride parade or whatever it might be, the issue with that topic in America is that usually the countries that hold the views of being anti-gay or anti-trans and like anti-choice for abortions, and countries that are pro-death penalty like Republicans are, usually those countries are very unsafe, authoritarian, third world countries. So if we are saying, okay, we're going to increase like, trans rights somewhere, or spread gay propaganda saying it's okay to be gay somewhere, or doing like a gay parade, or supporting organizations that say that, Republicans will hate that. But it's because they agree with Saudi Arabia on gay people. Like they agree with Saudi Arabia on gay rights. It's not because it's anti-freedom.
You don't see that at all as a financial matter, right? You don't see that as like, hey, we shouldn't be sending money over there. Instead, we should be prioritizing the American people. You see that more as like, oh, I don't agree with that viewpoint. That's why I reject it. Like I don't.
No, I agree with foreign aid, and it's a small part of our budget. But they want to cut Medicaid, and they want to cut the VA, and they want to cut Social Security, and they want to cut taxes for the wealthy, and like they want to do bad things here in America.
Security, no.
They're cutting right now. The wait time for a Social Security call is like 8 hours or something crazy, and it's taking months for claims to get resolved. And for the first time in American history,
that doesn't prove cuts, though.
First time in American history, Social Security is missing payments because Doge is ruining it intentionally. But like just in general, the idea like, oh, we need to use that money here. You could say that with anything, and I'd say like we have a million other things we could be doing in America. We just don't do it. Republicans don't want to invest in Americans. They don't want to cut taxes just for working class Americans. They always include a big slush fund for the ultra wealthy. So it's not even a real argument.
True, but the American people didn't know what their tax dollars were going to in the past. Now they do. So now they're probably more upset than before. I would like to go back.
But they're being okay. I'm sorry. One thing really quick. They are.
Okay.
They are trying to intentionally get people mad about social topics they're mad about to kill entire agencies for a reason. They know Americans are anti-gay, for example, so they want to say, hey, they're supporting trans surgeries in Alberta, wherever. And now that's going to be the reason for killing that agency. But when we talk about the overall structure of what's happening now with Doge, they are not being serious, and they're lying about most of this. There's a reason they're bringing up the most like pop topics, the most socially driven, socially angering topics of all time. It's because they're not being serious about, showing Americans transparency. And all this information is public on usaspending.gov. Americans never got mad about it because no one told them to be mad about it. But now they're being told to be mad about it. So now, the anger is going to fly in whatever direction it goes. And Americans right now, like, Trump lied to Americans when he said he didn't try cutting Medicaid or Social Security. He tried cutting it with every single budget. So, like, we can't say they're transparent when they're lying their asses off. Doge is not proving shit. And it's just like, I'm in policy. I know policy. And it's just like really sad to me because I see Americans believing in Doge. And I think there should be something that makes government work for people. But this is definitely just not it.
I can see, there is no evidence because let me finish because I feel like this is going to rile up a little bit. There is no evidence to support that what they're doing is purely based off the action that they don't agree with the other side. I think that it could be more of a financial, economical standpoint, but we can agree to disagree on that because, like I said, that's just, just
from a
different
financial,
sides
economical standpoint, why are they cutting national park services when that's like 0.00005% of the budget? Like, it just does not make sense for financials, because financials would be you're not going to decrease taxes by this much. You're not going to fire IRS agents. They're firing IRS agents, which is going to make us lose $500 billion in revenue from the ultra wealthy. They're going to be able to evade taxes because we're killing the IRS. And funding the IRS is good. Funding the IRS means less rich people get to evade taxes, and Doge is making that situation worse. They're making the deficit, the budget worse, and they're killing these tiny programs like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which protects American consumers. It's just so disingenuous, and they're not touching
100%.
the budget at all. They're just killing agencies that benefit the American people, and they're telling us we got a big deal. We got savings, guys. We cut veteran services. Look at all the savings. It's like, no, that's not savings. You're giving yourself a huge tax cut.
Well, so for at least in that situation, I would actually mainly with any situation that Doge is involved in, I would say that they're going to do essentially what they're doing with the same thing with the Department of Education. They're going to tear it down, get rid of waste, and instead, these programs that you're saying, like in the ones that would be allocated in the Department of Education, they would be funded by something else. They would be funded by the Department of Treasury. They would be they would be funded by the Department of Human Resources or Human. I forgot what it's called.
I'm sorry, but when you say get rid of waste, what do you think the waste is they're getting rid of? Like, what have they said? Because they're apparently looking through all our government systems. You would think they'd bring up some like actual, fundamental waste.
I mean, I think there's a lot of. I mean, I think in anything that you look at, there's a lot of waste. I mean,
here's one big question for every Trump supporter in chat. If there's an entire agency, Elon Musk is supposed to be the super genius, and they have Doge going through every agency, ripping them apart for months now. And they say we're getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. And when we talk about, what are examples of waste, fraud, or abuse you can point to? And I say initially, because before you even said the thing about the trans people or in Saudi Arabia or whatever, I said initially it's going to be like a social topic. They get people mad about social issues. It's just things they disagree with. The fact that when I ask about like individual, I one more part, but the fact when I say what is the waste, what is the fraud, what is the abuse? Name one example of this. Name one real example of this where it's making a system better. It's like no one has that answer. They just have the answers that they want you to be mad about, not the answers that would actually like fix a government.
I would say that the people would say that what they considered waste is money not being spent on the American people. I would say that what they considered waste is stuff that has no need to be in there at all. Like, and I really wish I do want to go and like find the actual names and the amount of money that we're giving, but just for this hypothetical, I'll use the Saudi Arabia one again, and I'll say that if you ask the majority of people, they are going to say that is waste. They are going to say that their taxpayer dollars could be used in schools, could be used more in hospitals, could be used more in any other environment that is in America. I think people want to have their America stronger before we go out and start aiding everyone else around us. And if I can, I would like to go back because a while back I did want to get back to this point, but then you continued. I wanted to talk about NATO real quick. You said that this was so long ago, I honestly forgot what you said. But basically, my whole end goal was to say that, do you agree that other countries of NATO? Oh, I remember now. You said that, the only reason America pays more to NATO is because we're a bigger country. That you are 100% right about, not denying that whatsoever. But you are aware that all the other countries have not paid their part. They have not paid their average. All of them are below. I think the only one that was above average is Turkey, I believe.
Well, that's for like their personal defense budgets, and I think it's like 26 out of like 32 countries or whatever now is meeting their like self-funding or their self-defense goals. It's supposed to be a certain percentage of your economy.
It's their GDP, and they send it to NATO.
Yeah, it's a percentage of their economy. But they don't send it to NATO. So like, there's two different things. There's the NATO Common Fund, which we pay about like 800 million into per year, maybe like 900 million. That's the Common Fund, and then we have our own personal defense budget. The commitment to NATO is saying we're going to defend our budget. We have a 2% national defense spending target, but the budget contributions are extremely small for NATO.
The budget they are really small because all the other countries are not paying their part yet. And then if they did pay their part, and then I think what Trump is not threatening here per se, but basically saying is that, hey, if you guys don't start paying your part, we're going to take more. We're going to stop giving so much to the common. The amount to the common is barely anything for the price of NATO. It's not that much money at all. I know, maybe for the price of NATO, which consists of 12, how many countries? But for one country, I guarantee you it could do a good, especially when that one country has been paying its part and all the countries haven't been. I feel like that's a little earned in a way that, like,
it's not about, but Trump wants everything to be some type of like stubborn, dumb negotiation that avoids all fact. Like, having a stable globe is why we do NATO. If you want to say like meet these different targets, you can say that. But like seeking to kill NATO, which many different people like Elon Musk and Walz have said this before, National Security Advisor, who just like had that whole scandal with the text messages. Like they've said about leaving NATO completely, and that is suicide for the world. That's going to lead to another world war if we actually kill NATO, which Trump has leaned into pretty heavily. Which that's one of my big worries is if Trump is going to either. He already said, by the way, Trump said that he doesn't trust NATO countries. He does not trust NATO countries. He says if we get attacked, I don't think they'd defend us, so we're not going to defend them if they get attacked. If that's the standard, we basically killed NATO. And Trump saying that is extremely freaking stupid, because America is the only country who called Article 5 of NATO, and other countries came and had their troops die for us in the Middle East after 9/11. That's the only time NATO countries came to a conflict is 9/11, is after 9/11, and America did that. And the fact Trump's going to act like, oh, NATO never helped us is so disgusting for service people all around the world.
Totally can agree that NATO is an amazing thing that we should try to prosper for. And I personally have not seen, I don't know if this was a text or a clip that you're referring to, that they said that they would like to take down NATO completely. I would need to look that up before I confirm that. But I would say that as far as NATO goes, again, I find it a little odd that you're just blowing by the point that America is making up the majority of the contribution, all of the contributions. If you're looking at like the percentage-wise compared to all these other countries, I think if you were a homeowner, I'm going to put it as an example.
Okay, I'm sorry, but it's not the same at all. The homeowner, I hate when people do this with the national debt too. It's not the same as if you're a homeowner. We're talking about global stability, the global superpower in the U.S. The reason the U.S. is so rich is largely because of our military. It's largely because of NATO. The reason the U.S. is able to be so rich is because we get favorable trade deals, favorable trade routes. We get a stable globe to operate off of, to do trade on. We benefit from NATO more than those countries do. Those smaller countries do not benefit more from having. It's mutualistic. We both benefit to a great amount. And acting like we're spending a ton of money to the NATO Common Fund is not true at all. The big gripe Trump had is that the countries, all countries, were not meeting their own personal GDP percent spending, but that's only internal to that country. That has nothing to do with the NATO Common Fund. I'd rather just talk about something else.
Well, real quick, I really wish you didn't just like cut me off in the middle of my hypothetical.
I don't want to hear I'm sorry. The analogies to like the homeowner stuff is just so it hurts my brain because it's not related at all.
What analogy did you think I was gonna say, if I can ask?
It doesn't. Any analogy that brings up like your personal budget for the national debt or like your home and like security or like your neighbors. And it's like we're not paying into this. It's just not. It's just not something we can really. I just don't have the brain power to do.
Okay, well you don't. I mean, you don't have to like respond to it or anything like that, but I do think it's a fair point to say that, hey, if I'm living somewhere and my neighbors aren't paying the contribution that we all agreed on, then I think it's only fair that I get a better benefit out of that. But
it's not about the contribution. We're mad about the guidelines. It's a NATO guideline for what you should be spending. It's a guideline. It's not a rule. It's a guideline. And Trump is deciding to complain about it because he wants to have some type of conflict.
Well, okay, then you're right. Then a guideline, not a rule per se. But that's fair. We can agree to disagree on that. And
well, Trump thinks we're subsidizing Canada too. Trump thinks we're subsidizing Canada, which is like also just insane.
I mean, I think they've showed with their taxes on all their goods coming to America that they are they're not in that best place either. And
Wait, they
yeah,
did that in
I know
retaliation
you
to Trump,
want to move
though.
on.
That was because of Trump.
No, we had dairy products even before Trump at priced at 25%.
America sells. Okay, you know it's a.
120. I'm sorry.
There's a high percentage for those tariffs, but it doesn't kick in until a very, very high amount. It's a national security thing they do, whereas like if you get a certain number of exports, then a huge tariff kicks in, but they never even get close to the number. There's no direct tariff on all dairy products that go into Canada, like Trump says. That's a lie that he says too. But like we're also like, these are all just super complicated.
Well, I never heard him say that. I never said that he like. I feel like you're kind of using him as like an ambassador of evil, but I didn't get that off him. I know, but again, he never. Did he say this? Like he directly said that.
Yeah, he said we're subsidizing Canada. He said we're giving Canada $200 billion. He said we're giving $350 billion to Ukraine, which is a lie too.
But real quick, that's not what you said though. You said that Trump said.
And he said we're getting tariffed at 290% too. He did bring that up. He made it seem like Canada was unfairly tariffing us. He also said that he said Canada and the trade deal we have with them is terrible. He said, who the hell made this trade deal? He's the one that made the trade deal. That's another thing he said.
Well, I believe he was referring to the trade deal before he was in office, not whenever he was in office.
No, because he said the current trade deal with Canada and Mexico sucks, and he's like, who the hell did this? And because NAFTA existed before he got in office, and then the USMCA renegotiated tariffs and trade deals, and Trump did that. That was one of his biggest achievements, and now he hates it for whatever reason. Now he says it's super unfair. So,
well, I mean, he was out of office for 4 years. They could have changed something along the lines of those.
No, we're still under the same trade deal.
I mean, again, I can't just be like, oh yeah, I take your word for it 100%. I would have to go do the research myself, and I advise everyone to go do the same. I know you said that you wanted to get off this topic, so I will. Honestly, and this is kind of one that strikes. This isn't political, I guess, in a way. It's more about just your personal beliefs. So I don't want to have like a political debate about this, but I guess it could fall under it. You say that you believe in God, correct?
I'm agnostic. I don't know what I believe in.
No, but well, I'm just curious because I heard you in the past. You were saying that, I think I forgot what you said. You're basically emphasizing God like, not, I don't want to say godly morals, but like Christian morals, I should say. I forget what you said, man. I was watching the live stream.
I think you can be a Christian and go off of Jesus's teachings without being like 100% sure God exists, because I think there's room to be like questioning about things.
I'm glad I asked this because the whole agnostic thing makes a lot of sense now. Because how you talk about trans and how you talk about gay people and how you talk about all these other groups, I thought that you were more religious, but then you talked about these groups, and I'm like, well, that doesn't really coincide together. Even your political party itself doesn't really stand for the side of like Christianity or Catholicism or I can't think of the name.
Well, I'd say Republicans don't either.
I mean, I could say that, but I again, I don't want this to get too political, but I would say that if we had to put a pin on it, I would say it leans more left, the side that is pro-abortion, the side that is like pro all these things that God wouldn't probably be on par with.
Not pro-abortion, pro-choice, pro people making their own decisions.
Pro-choice. I know you're right. Pro-choice, not pro-abortion. But again, I do want to clarify that really like answers it, because as soon as you said you were agnostic, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Because I thought you were going to say that you were Christian or that you were Catholic or that you were any of these other things, and then I would be more questioning on this. But it makes sense now because you're not fully I believe agnostic, if I remember the term correctly, that you hope that there is a higher power and that you want there to be a higher power, but you just can't believe in it until you see facts. Do I have that correct?
I mean, that'd be more of an aggressive person. I just don't, I just try to do good for other people. I think Jesus has some pretty good moral teachings, which Jesus never talked about gay people or trans people, only talking about like radical acceptance and fighting for the disenfranchised and those cast aside from society. And also the Bible was written 50 years after Jesus' death, so it's hard to really say for sure. But yeah, I don't really put much stake into anything in the Bible that Jesus did not actually say. So especially with gay people, especially with trans people, especially with abortion. There's nothing in the Bible that directly would say like, okay, you need to be against these things, or think it's murdered to do abortion. And in fact, this being a political thing with abortion and thinking it's murder is a pretty new concept in America. Like in the 60s and 70s, it became a political thing, because the conservatives lost their voter base. Liberals got black voters at that time. So conservatives radicalized the evangelicals and made abortion their big like platform. So it's a lot of really complicated stuff.
And I will agree that if I know, like, if you were in a position where you were running for power, let's say hypothetically, me and you were running for presidency, and I was like, oh, I'm against abortions because that's just where I stand on it. And then you said, well, I'm also against abortions, but I need to appeal to the majority, so that's not fair to everyone for me to just be like, I don't agree with abortion, so no one can. I feel like that's a big thing that I can applaud Trump for, is that he does not agree with abortions. He does not agree with abortions. He just doesn't personally see it, but he did. I forgot how many weeks it is. He passed I forgot how many weeks it is, but he basically made it legal to have abortions or be pro-life in that regard.
So generally with abortions as well, I think the moral lines between what you consider a person is very difficult. Elective abortions, I think the Roe v. Wade weeks made sense. But for medical abortions, when a doctor deems it necessary, I don't think there should be any limits at all. When a doctor deems it necessary, because women are now dying in red states because doctors are not able to give them care.
I feel like that's great common ground to have, at least with abortions, is that we can agree. I think the majority of people that are on the side of pro-life can agree that if it is a genuine threat to the human or to the woman host, then that could be an issue. Then that could be cause. If
do you see the issue? Do you think? So I would say Texas goes too far, for example, because there's never a point when someone's like 5%, 10%. Like in Texas, their laws go too far with anti-choice, where it's like when a doctor's looking at a patient, there's no clock above her head or like a meter that says 5% dead, 20% dead, 50% dead. So like, it's really hard for a doctor to make that decision to begin with. And then when you put politics into it, women are now dying in Texas from septic shock, from infections, from having a dead fetus inside of them, because doctors are scared to perform abortions on them, even if they think it's necessary, because they think the state might crack down on them and say they commit murder. So many women's health professionals are leaving Texas because they don't want to, have a woman have a miscarriage and be accused of committing murder. And the state law in Texas allows for, if you get the wrong judge, you could do everything right as a doctor, and they could just say, we don't think this is justified, you killed a child, and now you're in prison. And women are the infant mortality rate, and also the maternal mortality rate when you give birth, when a woman dies giving birth, has increased by like 25% or 30% in Texas since the laws have passed. And that's why I would say like elective abortions is like one thing. You could talk about some restrictions, but I think the only restriction for doctors and the medical field should be medical ethics, and whatever the medical board decides is best practice, because there are a lot of women right now that are dying because they're not able to get that kind of care.
Oh yeah, I would never be on board with people dying, and I would also say that when you said the medical board, I would say that, and you also brought up the example that, oh, well, you can't look at you and say that you're 5% dead, 10% dead. Well, but there are signs, though. There are signs of someone physically decaying. There are either infections, bacteria, any sorts of things that diseases that they know that can harm the woman and the baby inside.
Well, what if a doctor says, for example, there is a chance you give birth and die. There's a chance you die giving birth. We think it's a decently high chance. This Texas law currently makes it so that it would probably be up in the air case if that doctor goes to jail for literal murder. So do you think like the Texas law goes too far then, if that's what it means? If you take me for my word and that's what they actually do?
Well, I would say that any doctor that performed an abortion, if it wasn't, going down with the process of the hospital and going down with just the natural process of how births or abortions are supposed to be gone about, then I would say, yeah, try him 100%. I don't think that's right. I don't think that you should secretly have an abortion just secretly have it. But I would say that in your hypothetical, I would say no, that's not right.
Okay, and that'd be my big thing for the red states right now. There's stories of women who, like, their doctors will say, for example, I can't treat you. Like, I think there's a chance you die with this, but I can't treat you because I don't want to risk going to prison. And we have the story, I forget her name. She was driving from, like, Georgia or South Carolina to, does anyone have her name in chat? Someone has her name, I'm not sure. But she's driving from, like, South Carolina or Georgia to North Carolina to a blue state because they would not treat her in the red states. And before she was able to get to a doctor in the blue state, she died. She bled out in her car, essentially. And I want to avoid situations like that, but it seems like these states are continuing to do really big crackdowns on abortion laws. And for me, like, even if you are completely anti-abortion, you're anti-choice, you don't want anyone to make a decision at all, and, like, no exceptions for rape or incest or whatever, I'd be fearful if I was a man with a wife and she was pregnant. Like, what if she has complications and the doctor's like, I can't treat her because of these laws? So, like, even for people who are very anti-abortion in every way, like radically, have to realize these laws might impact them someday if they do have complications or a miscarriage or something, and a doctor's too scared to give them care.
Again, I think, and another thing I want to speak on is that you brought the example up, like, oh, having a dead baby inside you, and then they were scared to do anything about it. I would want to see any case where a doctor saw a dead embryo inside a belly and said, oh, no, that has to stay in there. I don't think that has ever been a case anywhere in America.
No, but it's not dead,
I get that could have been just a hypothetical. I get that could have just been like a far, like, hypothetical. I'm not saying that that's like your end point. But to get back to what you were saying, I can agree that, people shouldn't have to go about and try to go over these things and try to go to different states in, like, that one case that you gave to go have an abortion. I would also agree that if you aren't ready for any consequences whatsoever, then you shouldn't be having sex. That's just what I personally believe.
Someone in chat said don't get pregnant. Also, these cases are not okay. The thing with not having sex is that you can plan to have a child. You can plan to have a child, and the doctor can say, okay, there's a 60% chance you die. There's a 60% chance your wife dies giving birth, but I cannot help her and save her, even though the chances are high, because if I go to a courtroom, the judge might say, you know what, you said there's a 60% chance she'll die. I think it was only 20%. I think you're a baby killer. And that doctor can now go to jail. So even if you plan your pregnancy out, even in the best cookie cutter scenario, which Republicans I know are the biggest freaking hypocrites with getting girls pregnant and getting abortions, by the way. The Republicans I know get far more abortions than Democrats, by the way. Like, I know a lot of, politicians, they'll fly their mistresses out to a blue state to get an abortion or a different country. Even if you plan everything perfectly, this can impact you and your loved ones. That's the big thing here that doctors, because like I said, in Texas, the doctor can say there's 60% chance they die, and the judge can be like, nuh-uh, there's not 60% chance they could die. You just wanted to kill the baby, and they can put you in jail for murder. So yeah, that's a big issue.
Do you know any of, like, the science or the info that goes into them determining that, like, because you're saying it as if it's just their personal opinion, like, it's just, oh, well, I think that it's not. And I think that there has to be a little bit more due diligence, especially when it comes to a medical matter, and one that, in this hypothetical, is
but that's the issue, though. You're assuming doctors are not giving due diligence then, because they are, and there will be subjective parts of any medical care.
The lawyers. I'm not saying no. I never once said the doctors.
I'm saying judges. There'd be insane freaking judges.
I'm saying that the judges are not doing their due diligence, or you're saying that the lawyers are not, or judges. God damn, I can't talk. You're saying that the judges are not doing their due diligence in checking or confirming the fact that that mortality rate was in fact correct. In your eyes, it's, oh no, I don't see it as that. Or in your eyes, you're looking at the judge is saying, oh well, I don't see it like that. I believe it could have been lower, jail time. I don't personally believe that that's how it works. I actually live in Texas. I know many people who have had abortions and people who have kept the baby. And whether that be due to their decision or because they weren't physically able to, I don't know. But I would say that I don't think that if their doctor said, oh, well, I really think that this could harm you, and then they get brought to court, that they wouldn't do their due diligence checking to make sure that that doctor was correct.
It's just not about due diligence. It's activist judges who are just there because they're radically anti-abortion, and no matter what, they're going to rule against the doctor. Like in some of these situations, there are crazy judges who will get a case in front of them and like rule a certain way no matter what. That's what we want to avoid. Or like in general, we don't want the legal we don't want a doctor when they're giving care to a patient having to worry about the laws in the state. And like right now, it's very true that women's health care varies versus the state. If you're in a blue state, you have a much, or if you're in a red state versus a blue state, your chances of dying while giving childbirth are exponentially higher than in blue states. And it's just a really bad trend that we're seeing. And you have to realize too that the being anti, let's say you think that something is a human or should be afforded personhood at conception, that is a very radical belief in the first world, in the modern world. It's a very radical belief to believe there's that there's personhood assigned at conception when the sperm meets the egg. So like, that's extremely radical and fundamentalist to begin with. So those people can have the same fundamentalist positions when it comes to reading law.
Well, I believe on no matter what side you look, there will be radical views. I know for a fact that you know that there are very radical Democrats that want to have abortions up to like 8 weeks, I believe it was, or something like that.
What do you mean 8 weeks? Like 8 weeks after what?
After they are in, I don't know if no, after the baby was born, yeah, like out of the womb completely.
Those wouldn't be abortions. I know they talked about this in the media a lot.
But regardless, I'm not trying to paint a picture.
So it's not legal to give an abortion for 8 weeks after birth. So what this is, okay, essentially, if there's if a fetus is born and it's not viable.
Real quick because you cut me off like 4 times.
I'm sorry, no, but you're saying things that are objectively not true that can impact people's lives. And when you say 8-week abortion after birth, that can damage people's lives. I need to correct that. I'm sorry, I need to correct that. We need to live in a factual world. That's not an abortion. That's not infanticide. They're not killing babies. This is a child that's not viable. This is a child that will die, and they're not going to make it live in misery and suffer. They're just going to say, okay, we're not going to force it to be alive for another 2 weeks.
Sir,
there are situations like that where a doctor makes that decision.
Sir, we've had a very nice conversation up until now, but anytime I try to...
All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Please drop a like and subscribe. Appreciate all the donations. Thank you. Thank you for all the donations. Cash App. I got another one from MP. Thank you. And RJ. RJ said Jolah for Congress. Thank you. And MP said thank you. Thank you so much for the donations. Yeah, if you want to donate, please consider Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, especially Cash App and Venmo go right to my phone. Really appreciate that. Jolah Politics, if you appreciate the stream, please drop something. I am looking to possibly run for Congress, dude. So if you donate money, it makes it a lot easier to think about doing that because it'll show me that you support it. Might have news coming soon. But yeah, please consider dropping donations if you would like to donate to the show on YouTube. Thank you for liking, subscribing, become a channel member, all that kind of stuff. And with that, guy, I don't want to hang up on people. I'm tired though. And like, if you're gonna say something like Democrats want to have birth or they want to have abortion 8 weeks after birth, that's an absurd claim. That's not happening. It's completely fake. And someone said it's a Steven Crowder line. It probably is Steven Crowder. But if I can't fact check that on my own platform and let you ramble on about this, I'm sorry. I'm too tired. I don't have the energy to hear you say that. I know people that deal with these issues, and it really impacts people. And yeah, I don't know. You just run out of experience. You run out of patience at some point in the night after so many callers. And if you're gonna complain, like, we had a really nice conversation so far. We had a great conversation so far, but like, you had to ruin it and interrupt me. Yeah, I'm interrupting you because you're saying that they're killing babies 8 weeks after birth. It's like no one is saying that, dude. Why are Republicans the first people to cry about ableism or using gay as a slur? Like, that guy that I talked to earlier is commenting on all of my videos right now saying he used gay as a slur because he was losing an argument. Like, why do they act like they care? They're such cry-bullies, bro. They're such cry-bullies. We know they don't care about these offensive words. We know they don't care about ableism. We know they don't care about if we even say the word ableism, they laugh at us, by the way. If we even say the word racism, they laugh at us, or homophobia, they laugh at us. But meanwhile, I'm like, bro, you're gay. And it's like, you're using a slur. Because they're trying to, like, they're just manipulators. They're manipulators. They're just not genuine people. Yeah, and then he starts saying the actual F slur. Yeah, good point. Yeah, I know. They're cry bullies. They're babies. I asked him about gay couples adopting. He's like, I don't think they should have a man and a woman, a mom and a dad, or they can't survive anymore. It's like, bro. Like, why? As they say, DEI. Man, my contacts are dry, bro. I have to start using my glasses more, because if I use my contacts, my eyes dry up. Okay. See, running for office, you need too much money. I can't believe Democrats flipped to R plus 17. R plus 17 race. The Trump executive order on voting would ban any voter with no passport from voting. Oh my god, bro. Yeah, it costs a lot of money to run for Congress. You also have to have no integrity. Mr. Bryson, okay? He said there's radicals that believe birth starts at conception. You realize that's the dominant view in the Republican Party. The people that believe birth starts at conception is the policy perspective of the Republicans. Most Republicans believe that in America. The vast majority of Republicans believe that. According to any poll, according to the policies in these red states, Republicans believe that. The number of Democrats that believe you should have abortions after 8 weeks is probably one twisted Twitter user somewhere. One twisted Twitter user. And that's probably not even someone who's being serious. Because anything happening after birth is not even abortion. It's a medical procedure that's completely separated from abortion. But the point is having no restrictions on what a doctor can do, so a doctor can save lives and give health care women need. That's the point. So you're saying the radicals on the Republican Party are the majority of the party, but then the radicals on the left are like one person. If that. Probably not even one person, to be honest. Probably not even one person, because you don't because that's not a thing that's happening. Like nowhere in any country supports abortion after 8 weeks. It's not even abortion. It's not even a real thing. I'm sorry, dude. It's just I'm too tired. I'll call in again sometime when I'm less tired. Thank you for the call. No, I gotta get off. I'm tired. I gotta get off. I need some ice cream or something, bro. I need some ice cream for real. Thank you for the $10. Congress money. Don't say that. Don't say Congress money, because then it'll be a... Thank you for the donations, guys. 76 out of $1,000. Very nice. Thank you. This guy is so wrong. Haagen-Dazs. I don't know. Ice cream and Rocket League. I'm actually kind of exhausted. I might just eat. I have some freeze pops in the... The policy on the right wing being 6 weeks, the 6-week policy on the right wing is essentially a full ban. Most women don't know they're pregnant until after 6 weeks. You need to be like going in for lab results to know that shit that early. Like that is a conception ban. That's why it's 6 weeks. It's a heartbeat bill. It's the heartbeat bill, but it still is essentially a conception ban, unless if you're like super lucky. And then if you do know that you're missing your cycle or your period, you need to get an abortion within that week, within that day. Like by the time women know, it's going to be at 6 weeks or a few days after. There's actually cases of little girls being assaulted and having to go states over because by the time they realized they were pregnant, it was like 5 days after 6 weeks. Look up the case. She got an abortion in Indiana. I'm pretty sure. A girl, she was assaulted by her family member, I'm pretty sure, pregnant, did not know until after 6 weeks, and then she had to go to a different state. So yeah, the 6 week ban, you have to learn. I think this is a big issue too with Republicans and conservatives. They truly don't understand how the woman body works. They don't understand how pregnancy works. They don't understand how the cycles work. They don't understand how orgasms in women work, especially. So it's hard for them to understand why we care about this topic as a women's health issue, like a true women's health issue. They don't understand how violent pregnancy is for a woman's body. They just don't understand that. They put a picture of a woman up on social media. She has like arm hair. Like a woman has arm hair on social media, and she's like, no, the conservatives on social media, the woman has arm hair. It's like, she has arm hair. Ew. I like all my girls with no hair at all. It's like, oh God, you're weird, bro. You're weird. You're weird. You're weird. Air vents with rust. Wow. True, Kyle. True. All right. Thank you for all the awesome viewership tonight. We actually got to 97 viewers on the horizontal stream at the same time as the shorts, which is actually a new record, I'm pretty sure, for the streams at the same time. And tonight started off really slow, but I think we brought it in at the end there. Thank you for all the donations. Really makes it easier to keep the show going. Please try. This dude has never seen a girl. Yeah, dude. Yes. I have no experience with women. That is me, brother. That is me. We understand sex and understand it can lead to pregnancy and that you shouldn't risk it. So you have the understanding of sex that a 12-year-old has that took a you have an understanding of sex that you have after the birds and the bees. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. You know, the birds and the bees. Penis makes sex, vagina, baby. Pregnancy, bad. Be scared. Don't do it. Risky. Personally, don't find hairy arms sexy. It's not about hairy arms. It's about hair in general. Like the Twitter's shocked to see that women have body hair in general, like any body hair. Like women have mustaches, right? We're just busting your balls, Bryson. But you have to understand. You have to understand as well. The 6-week ban is a conception ban. In most cases, and we're putting many people in positions where they get assaulted and they have to carry the fetus to term, and they have to risk their lives doing it, and we have to care about that too. Yeah, what can a woman really do? It's like that example. It's the 14-year-old. Let me see. Girl. Abortion, Indiana. Okay. So this is a good story right here. Okay, look up this story. Indiana board reprimands Dr. Caitlin Bernard over a 10-year-old's abortion case. Okay. So she in July, she took a call from a doctor regarding a suspected case of child abuse involving a 10-year-old girl from Ohio. 10-year-old girl. The child was just over 6 weeks pregnant. Now, again, you're not going to know you're pregnant until at least 5 or 6 weeks, and then you have to be ready right away. Ohio prohibits abortions after around 6 weeks of pregnancy, after Roe v. Wade was overturned. She went to Indiana to receive care from Bernard, this doctor that was held liable. Almost lost her license, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, this case right here, look this up, okay? It's a 10-year-old girl who was assaulted. 10-year-old girl. And I know conservatives are like, oh, why talk to kids about sex? It's like, because you can, like, kids do these things. Like, we need to provide health education for this reason. There's a reason conservative states have higher rates of teen pregnancy, higher rates of assault, higher rates of STDs, because they don't educate on sex at all in general. But yeah, 10-year-old girl assaulted, and she needs to go to Indiana from Ohio, because the Ohio fundamentalist radical extreme law made it so that she could not get health care. You have to realize how radical these things are. 10-year-old girl having to go to Indiana, become a national story because in her own state she could not see a doctor. Her own state said she could not see a doctor because of someone's religious beliefs. Their religious beliefs restricted this 10-year-old girl, this poor 10-year-old girl, from being safe. I think that's a problem. If you don't think that's a problem, you got to pick up that Bible, brother. All right, have a good night, guys. That's the show, as they say in actual shows that have formats. But thank you guys again. Drop a like, subscribe, donate to Jolah Politics on Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal. Hopefully some good news soon. I'm gonna run for Congress and lose terribly and cry, dude, and cry. I need to do it soon if I'm gonna do it. I need to do it really soon if I'm gonna do it, like extremely soon. Like I need to dedicate time to it. I need to dedicate time to this now, because if I don't do it now, I'm gonna run out of time and someone else is gonna say they're gonna run here, and then I'm gonna lose it. Because here's a fun little fact. The state Senate race in Pennsylvania that swung from plus 20 Republican to having a Democrat win is a very similar district to the one I'd be running in. So that's an interesting sign. But the Congress race is like 65-35. So it's a little bit more extreme. A little bit more difficult than that. Okay, have a good night, guys. Thank you. F you, do it. W Jolah L me. I'll hop in Discord too. Here's the Discord if you want to hop in there. Nice. What are you? If you want to call in again, or if you want to call in and talk, anyone, call in tomorrow again. Bryson, the issue is the abortion law. The doctor that denied it because it was Ohio law. This is what I'm trying to get through your head. Texas, South Carolina, Ohio, these laws are radical, fundamentalist laws based on religion that are restricting a woman's right or a girl's right to health care. Like, these are the laws Republicans... This is Republican policy in action. It's not the doctors. It's the Republican policy restricting doctors from doing their jobs. That's the entire point. But have a good night. Thank you, guys.